Happy Super Sunday, football fans. I am Sam Vetterman. I am with Nico. And guys, it is the biggest day on the football calendar, Super Bowl Sunday. And for the 5th straight year, I'm bringing you 3 hours of content, a live stream, the Super Bowl special. Nico, how are you doing?
I am very, very excited because this is such an intriguing matchup. It's been so tough to process this whole time because I cannot confidently say how it's going to go.
We have plenty of segments lined up. We have a lot of conversation, not just about the Super Bowl itself, but about plenty of other topics around the National Football League. And here to start us off, Brady is going to join us to talk about just the state of the NFL right now, the state of the league as we go into this offseason and this Super Bowl and then next season going forward. So the biggest developments overall over the last few months, I would say, just the momentum, not the moment, just the magnitude of some of the coaching changes that were made this offseason. Bill Belichick is gone. Jim Harbaugh is back in the NFL. There are so many intriguing moves that were made this offseason. Nico, who won the offseason in terms of hiring coaches?
Who has won the offseason so far? I would have to say I'm really encouraged by the direction the Falcons have gone. I mean, maybe this is going to be a trying to be different thing, but I really felt like getting Arthur Smith out of the building. I mean, he was such an issue for them. And then bringing in Raheem Morris, who I will at least say, we can always have these conversations about hiring defensive coaches and what happens when the offensive coordinator booms and gets poached in a few years. But I would say for the foreseeable future for the Falcons, they are going to be aggressive upgrading at quarterback. They brought in a Sean McVay's disciple to run the offense. He talked a lot in the press conference. I mean, I take press conferences with a grain of salt, but he talked about just how much he wants to utilize guys like Bijan and Drake London. And I don't know. I just think he's an awesome coach. And I think Atlanta finally did something really, really encouraging. And I can't pick any holes in it, honestly, right now.
Brady, do you agree with that?
I think I would. Raheem Morris was not my favorite hire, but I do think it was a good hire. And if we're factoring in offense coordinator hires and the coaches that were replaced, I would say the Falcons probably did their job. They got, I liked the Jim Harbaugh hire a lot, and then they hired Greg Roman, and I'm like, not
high floor, but I'm not sure about the ceiling anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
I like them.
The whole idea with bringing in Jim Harbaugh is the guy's a proven winner. He's won at the college level at multiple spots. He's won at the NFL level. And that's just the whole thing. You have to have a winning mentality. And that's just something I think the Chargers have lacked for so many years, where they just don't have winners. Like, who was the last Chargers coach that was just a straight up winner? And I know it's cliche, and I know that maybe it's not the best football, it's not the most football based thing. But look at the results. The guy gets results. And I'm not saying that he's going to win Super Bowls there, but it makes enough sense for the Chargers to just get a guy whose brand is so closely synced with winning for what that franchise needs, because they can't get out of their own way. And I think with Jim Harbaugh, that's not going to be as big of an issue.
Yeah, I think they will win. I don't know how much they'll win with Mahomes around, but I definitely think it's going to be like the most successful stretch of seasons Chargers fans have had in a while. I probably next year, I don't know how much they can realistically do with that defense. It's also kind of a tough one because you need so many different specialized types of players to fit that Jesse Minter defense. So that could be a bit of I don't see that being a seamless transition. I do think the offense can be pretty darn good right away, as long as they get serious with the running back position and a few spots on the offensive line. But yeah, I think like the floor starts next year. With more than they got this year. How many did they finish with this year? 4-13, 5-12.
I'm quite certain that they're going to make at least a push at the postseason next year.
Yeah, I think they're going to be like the Sean Payton Broncos this year. That's what I've said ever since the hire happened. I think that's a very realistic expectation. maybe beat some great teams, maybe and upset the Chiefs at some point. But I'm not setting the bar at playoffs year one.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at like the way that Chargers Twitter, like the Chargers Twitter account was hyping that higher up. It's like the way that they were hyping it up. It's like
You
if they
guys are
don't
better
win
than
multiple Super Bowls, I will be going back for bookmarks. But like but it is, you have to have reasonable expectations there. Now moving forward to a guy that will definitely not have reasonable expectations placed on him. Jerod Mayo is replacing the greatest coach in the history of football for my New England Patriots. I mean, Brady, what were your initial thoughts on the hire, and how have you kind of progressed from there?
I don't have much thoughts. I'm going to be honest. I can't say I'm very familiar with Jerod Mayo. I know he was a linebacker in the league for a while, and he was the linebackers coach in New England. Have they hired an offensive coordinator yet?
They hired Alex Van Pelt.
Yeah, Van
Pelt,
offensive
coordinator.
Okay, so yeah, we'll see. I think it's kind of like I don't really have much to say now, but I'll probably have a lot to say after next season.
Yeah, and Dante Hightower was just brought back as a linebackers coach.
That's fun.
You gotta love
Yeah.
having Hightower and Mayo together. I mean, those two guys, that's my childhood right there at the linebacker position. Nico?
I'm kind of with Brady. I don't think anyone that like isn't a beat reporter for the Patriots shouldn't pretend that they know much about this guy. But what I do know is that he was good at his job as the linebackers coach. Like they turned Jelani Tavai into a very good player, even though he was awful back in Detroit. He's obviously been preparing for this moment for a while. He was obviously probably the guy that Bill has loved and endorsed for the longest time. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say, but I don't think anyone could confidently come out and say he's going to be great or bad. I think I'm just like, yeah, probably fine replacement.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the whole deal with Jerod Mayo is that you're getting a guy that's going to hopefully maintain the culture, but with a modern twist to it. You're not looking at something that's going to be outdated anymore. Hopefully, I mean, Alex Van Pelt hasn't had some of the best offenses, but you're just hoping that you're kind of just hoping that if they can figure it out, I just think the Patriots will. There's only up. You can't really go down from here at this point.
No.
If you're New England. And kind of speaking of that, another team that can't really go down is the Carolina Panthers. They also made a new hire. How do you think the hire of Dave Canales impacts the development of Bryce Young?
I mean, listen, he was the quarterback's coach in Seattle that turned around Geno Smith's career. He was the offensive coordinator for the Bucs that turned around Baker Mayfield's league, who after last year, we didn't know how much longer Baker Mayfield would be in the NFL. Bryce Young is obviously different. Bryce Young is younger. But I think that this will be good for Bryce Young. Obviously, they still need to help him out with the offensive supporting cast, like, because there's really nothing much there. There's not a whole lot of good with that supporting cast. But I do think this was a very good hire, and I do think it will work out for Carolina. So that's my opinion on that.
I'm kind of scarred from the whole Frank Reich thing because I was so in on that. With the staff build, I was like, okay, this is exactly what they needed. They finally got serious, and then it just turned out to be one of the least serious operations in the league. But with Canales, there's a clear vision, right? You get the guy on the market who's the most known for turning quarterbacks around. I don't think Bryce Young is broken yet. I do think that with Canales, one thing he is very adamant on is getting great weapons to the football. Like Mike Evans, man, I don't think I've ever seen a bigger emphasis throughout his career on getting him the ball. So man, if they could get Mike Evans in free agency, if they could land a trade for T. Higgins, I think that would be a great thing for Bryce Young's development. I think like schematically they do. They did a lot of stuff in Tampa with Baker that Bryce could benefit from, more play action, more under center. But when it comes down to it, like the offensive line has to play better. They need upgrades at receiver. His running game was pretty awful. That is one thing I question. Can he actually design a run game at this point? But he seems very well liked. He seems like he's going to be a good players coach. I just don't think I can confidently say anyone's going to work after what happened last year. As long as David Tepper is in everyone's business, I don't know.
Are there any coaches that you thought should have been fired or let go that weren't?
As a biased Saints fan, I was not a fan of keeping Dennis Allen. I'll say this. I don't think Dennis Allen is a terrible head coach, but I don't think he is a good one. He didn't work out with the Raiders. Like what? That was like a decade ago. That was like the beginning of Derek Carr's career there.
A long time ago.
It was a while ago. He was a good defensive coordinator for us for a very long time. He became the head coach and just is not worked out. I remember going into last season, and the 2022 season, I thought we were going to be good, and so did most people. But I guess the problem was the coaching. And I'll say this: I'm at least happy that Pete Carmichael, our offensive coordinator, is gone. That I think Carmichael was definitely a bigger issue than Allen, I would say.
I would agree.
So I don't know. I mean, we've had an easy schedule this year. I don't think the roster's crazy, but it's good enough to win this division.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see next year. I think it'll be around the same story. We do have a new offense coordinator, Clint Kubiak, who I'm not like crazy optimistic about, but I do think it will be better than Carmichael. So we'll see. Once again, I don't think he was like the worst coach in the league, but I don't really see this team going anywhere with him as head coach.
Nico?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this about Dennis Allen. He does his job. Like all the defensive metrics, they check out. Like he's still one of the best defensive coaches in the league. But yeah, I'm with Brady. With the easiest schedule in the league, a lot of inexcusable close losses. Usually, late game management falls on the coaching. I do think the offense showed a lot of promise down the stretch. Not really sure like how a Shanahan style offense would work in New Orleans. It just seems like their weapons.
Yeah.
They might make some interesting moves at like tight end this offseason. That's something I'm interested
in. I want a tight end. Juwan Johnson was such a disappointment this year. He is
not a Shanahan tight end by any stretch.
He's not a Shanahan tight end at all. So.
Moving
forward, are there any other coaches, Nico, that you thought should have been canned, should have been moved on from?
I was pretty high on the fire Sirianni train. But I mean, like the staff looks great next year. Like I think Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio, like it doesn't get much better than that. Trying to replace the guys that led to the downfall of your season. I think the defense will get back into the upper half of the league. I think with their corners, it's hard to say they'll ever be back to the 2022 level. I don't know. I mean, I was also kind of wary of keeping Mike McCarthy, but I've got to give it to him. They upgraded at defensive coordinator, in my opinion. I don't know. I just didn't have as many problems with the coaching carousel as I usually do.
I thought that overall it was fine. I'm not the biggest fan of a bunch of guys around the league, but I can see the visions with most of them, mainly not with Mike McCarthy. I do not see the vision whatsoever there. I think that
here's the vision. The vision with Mike McCarthy is that
talent wins.
He will put up points and get Jerry Jones wins. And if you go to AT&T Stadium at any point in the regular season, you are going to get your money's worth. That's the vision with Mike McCarthy right now.
Yeah, but they're not going to get their money's worth when they go for the playoffs.
That's not what Jerry cares about, I guess.
Yeah, isn't that supposed to be the key?
Yep.
All right, moving on. the final thing that I kind of want to discuss in this segment is teams that have kind of changed their outlook of their future.
Mhm.
Just which team? I mean, Houston's going to be the obvious answer, but which team do you feel much better about their future now than you did on September 8th?
The Texans are an obvious answer. I'm trying to think of someone that isn't the Texans.
I would have said Washington until this whole thing happened.
Oh yeah,
because I didn't really know where Washington was going into the season.
They looked really directionless going into this past season. But
now they're in a situation where they kind of whiffed on head coaches.
Yeah,
they did. Ooh.
I don't want to say I was never not confident in their future. I would say I feel better about the Packers than I did going into the season. Just because I know Jordan Love is good. You know, going into the season, we didn't know if Jordan Love was good or not. So I feel good about that. I think Jordan Love, I do see the vision with the 3 straight Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Who knows if Jordan Love will ever be that good, but I do think they could definitely win a Super Bowl with him. I think, and Joe Barry is gone, which is also good for their future. Someone that was hating on a lot for the past 2 seasons. I would definitely say the Packers. There's probably a few others.
I've got one.
The Packers are definitely up there for me. I just think Jordan Love turning into a cyborg was not expected.
Yeah.
No, not
and he looked bad. He looked bad at like mid-season. He was not pretty. The accuracy was.
I remember the Saints game was like, man.
I thought
the Saints game.
The Raiders game.
Then every week I would wake up and see Jordan Love just threw for 3 touchdowns, and Jordan Love just did this ridiculous Rodgers.
What was that prime time? He had an awful primetime game too. I can't remember which one it was. It was the Raiders. Yeah.
Nico, you said you had one.
I do have one. I was always high on them in terms of like asset management and what the GM is doing, but I think the Arizona Cardinals actually hired a really good coach. I think Jonathan Gannon fooled me this year.
I like Gannon.
I think he bolstered his reputation. I mean, obviously the defensive results were pretty bad, but I felt like, man, some of the stuff he does is just so creative. I thought they came out early in the year. Early in the year is when coaches can really make statements on undermanned teams like that. Like the talent disparity is at its lowest early on in the year. And I felt like Jonathan Gannon really had some great teams on the ropes. Like that Cowboys game, his offensive coordinator is good too that he brought in. Like it doesn't seem like the players view him as this cornball that he was made out to be during the offseason. There seems to be like legitimate belief there. And I really think the GM, Monty Austinford, is doing a great job. You know, Kyler came back. He looked good in the new offense for certain stretches. Like, I don't know. It seems like a good culture brewing. Seems like he brings a lot to the table as a defensive mind. Seems like he can hire under the radar assistants. I don't know. I'm a believer. I think that defense is going to be really fun when they get any decent corners. Their corners were horrible. Like,
yes,
Marco Wilson.
Oh, Marco Wilson. Yep.
Marco Wilson.
LSU legend, as I like to call Marco Wilson.
Yes, LSU legend.
And like obviously, like that scheme is so predicated on having decent pass rushers because they like to rush 4 a lot. So I don't know. I think with new personnel coming in, he's going to turn a lot of heads. And I think it's safe. I'm already ready to say that Eagles fans were way too hard on him and way too happy to see him leave.
Absolutely agree. I never understood why Eagles fans were basically celebrating the loss of 2 coordinators that got them to the Super Bowl last year. Shane Steichen was almost coaching.
Shane Steichen was ridiculous. I mean, Gannon, I was like, okay.
Jonathan Gannon was
I got the Gannon stuff a little bit because he did have a meltdown.
Steichen made no sense.
He had a meltdown, but the guy was got them to the Super Bowl.
He had a meltdown against the Chiefs. Everyone had a
meltdown against the Chiefs.
DeMeco Ryans allowed like 40-something points in that game, in that regular season game last year against the Chiefs. Yeah, like I want them to draft. I want them to draft Marv. I hope they get Marv. I kind of hope the Patriots don't
Yeah.
take him.
I honestly don't even know where I want to go with number 3. But Brady, thank you so much for joining us. I need one more thing from you. Who's winning? What's the score? Who's the MVP?
I'm gonna go Chiefs 24-20, and the MVP will go to none other than Patrick Mahomes. That's my prediction.
You so much. Thank you so much for joining us today, Brady. And
It was a pleasure being here.
Of course. All right.
Sure.
Now, moving on. We have a fun segment coming up with a fun guest. Jackson Powers is here to join us to talk NFL honors. Jackson, how you doing?
I am doing wonderful. I am up at the crack of dawn over here in Mountain Time to talk about some NFL honors with you boys. How are you two doing?
Doing awesome.
I mean, it's Super Sunday. How can you not be doing
Yeah.
awesome?
Yeah, there you
This is
go.
it.
There you go.
This is
Excited
one
to
of the
talk
best.
some ball.
It's one of the best days of the year. So let's take a look at who actually won the awards and kind of go from there.
Okay.
The NFL MVP was given to Lamar Jackson. It was not unanimous. 2 voters voted for Josh Allen. Did you guys agree with the of course you guys agreed with Lamar Jackson winning MVP, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
What made Lamar Jackson this year just so much better than what he's been in the past few years? What made him sustainable from week 1 to week 18, something that he hadn't done over the past few years?
I think my thing with Lamar is when you kind of dive into the discourse with him, there's a lot of people that are telling you, 2019 was a great year out of his, and then his game kind of started to take a little bit of a dive in 2020, 2021, 2022. And I just don't think that's true. I think he had been steadily improving as a player throughout those 3 years. And even if it didn't show up on the stat sheet, there were a lot of reasons for that to be true. The passing game under Greg Roman was very, very vanilla and did not leave a lot of room for Lamar to be special in that area. The weapons obviously were not anywhere near what they were this year. And the transition to Todd Monken and the heavy, heavy investment in pass catchers, I think finally allowed Lamar to show that. And, Nico, you talked about it on your video. The dude did not have a bad game this year up until the AFC divisional round. And I think that the consistency and now under Monken's offense, the kind of ability to be that elevator in both the passing game and the running game, I think was pretty special out of him this year. So I really don't see who else would have been deserving of this award.
Yeah, I just think that there was kind of a vacuum in the middle of the season in terms of MVP. And Lamar, in this parts of the season where in the past couple of years he kind of faded and got worse.
Yep. And he never got hurt.
Like he made himself better as the season went on. The Ravens looked unstoppable going into the playoffs. And Lamar Jackson is a well-deserved MVP. Lamar Jackson is a 2-time National Football League MVP. That's the same amount as Mahomes.
It's elite company.
I saw this thing and I saw this talk show and it's like, it's time that we put Lamar in the same conversation as Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. And I was like, man,
how many MVPs do Joe Burrow and Josh Allen have combined? Like, no disrespect to Joe Burrow and Josh Allen,
that's what I'm saying. Like, how are we even viewing the game that way in the first place? Like, what are we doing, man?
Like,
yeah.
Honestly, before the season, you could say that those two were ahead of him.
Sure, I would say that.
The way that Lamar sustained his level of play throughout the entire season, you can't. There's no argument anymore. He is probably
There's no drawback. 2. Like
he's number 2.
He stayed healthy. I mean, I can't believe. I don't think people realize how crazy it is that like Jackson, I said he literally never had a disaster class. Like every quarterback except maybe Mahomes has these really bad moments, and like especially in the big games, he just lit it up. It's one of those MVPs where I'm actually kind of surprised he was so close to being unanimous. Like I thought there would actually be more people who looked at the numbers and they're like, yeah, I think it's Dak. I think it's Josh Allen.
Come on,
but it was one of those where
nobody was voting for Dak.
It was one of you just had to see it.
The narrative around Dak is way too bad for him to get an MVP vote.
I thought someone would bite with leading the league. He threw dang near 40 touchdowns. But
Dak was awesome this year.
he was.
Yeah.
I've always been like last couple of years under the impression that Dak is just hated because people don't like the Cowboys. And like I used to think that was corny. Then I started to see it. And I'm like, that's true. Dak obviously probably top 3-ish this year for the MVP.
Yeah.
He'd be my number.
Yeah,
two.
I think he'd be my number 2 as well.
Definitely choked in the playoffs.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing.
Last 2 exits, big time on Dak.
The Cowboys,
Yeah.
the Cowboys lose in the playoffs the same exact way every single year. The most embarrassing way possible. The most unceremonious, embarrassing way possible.
That Tampa Bay game will be studied in labs for years to come. Like, like how did that happen? How did the Cowboys come out and start fast in a playoff game? And
How did the Cowboys,
Brady
how did the unstoppable force, the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs, beat the immovable object, Tom Brady, in the playoffs?
How did Brady play so awful? Like
Brady was kind of awful that year, though.
He was awful. I mean,
yeah, he was.
That might be a stretch. He was awful in that game, but he was pretty mid that year.
No. Like I'm just saying, like the 2022 Buccaneers have to be up there for one of the worst playoffs we've ever seen.
Yeah. Just the interior offensive line was made up of DoorDashers and McDonald's employees, dude. They were turnstiles in the passing game. They were letting through just about anyone.
They could have used you.
Oh yeah, all 6'4", 195 of me. I would have been, dude. I'd have been flattened like a pancake if I'm throwing out on the offensive line. But my good old my doppelganger, if you will.
I don't think that's what doppelganger means.
No, it's not. But I could, for lack of a better term, I guess. My doppelganger is number 9 in Cincinnati. But
yep, number 9 in Cincinnati.
But my namesake, he's gonna be.
I don't think it's a namesake.
Very elite prospect. Well, we all know who I'm talking about.
Yes. Anyway, offensive rookie of the year was given to CJ Stroud. Puka Nacua also set records this year. Which side of this debate do you guys fall on?
Dude, I think that they should have, brought a knife up there to cut the award in half. Yeah. I mean, this is a great offensive rookie of the year race. I personally would have given it to Stroud. But I really would not have been mad either way. The only thing that I am mad about is how not close at all the voting was. I think the figure that I saw was 48-2 in Stroud's favor. That's not right. It should have been like a buzzer beater type win. Like Stroud should have narrowly edged out Puka Nacua in my opinion. The only reason I say that I would have given it to Stroud, I know that awards have become very quarterback based, but I think that's a good thing if you ask me, just because of the positional value. Like, I think it's harder to come into the league day one and put up the level of play that Stroud did at the quarterback position than Puka did at the receiver position. And that's really saying something because, Puka was historically great this year. But I think I do not have an issue with Ty going to the quarterback.
Yeah. And I wonder, like, with the voting thing, I wonder how many of those people barely decided to vote for Stroud.
Yeah.
That's what I wonder. Because on paper, it does seem very lopsided. I don't know. I'd like to see more ballots because that had to be such a close race. And also, I felt like the playoff games, like the Lions game, made me even higher on Puka. So I don't want to have too much of that bias in my head. But I felt good about picking Stroud when the regular season ended, just because of relative to his situation, he was just as high at his position as Puka was in terms of play.
I mean, Puka's awesome. Do you guys stand on this? Where did you guys stand on the Jefferson Herbert debate?
I was pro Herbert.
I think I was pro Jefferson. And I still don't feel bad about that because I think that Stroud was better than Herbert this year.
Oh, and I absolutely agree. I was pro Jefferson, and I think I'm pro Stroud this year, even though Puka was incredible. I think Jefferson just I think Jefferson might have been a little bit better, and I think Stroud was probably a little bit better than Herbert was.
Yeah. I would
But,
say
there was-
confidently, like Herbert was like above average, like firmly above average. I would say Stroud was firmly an elite quarterback this year.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
honestly, I feel like it's great now because I feel like last year Garrett Wilson was kind of a weaker offensive rookie of the year compared to Jamar Chase and Justin
Sure.
Herbert and
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley. So having this strong of a class is really incredible. Now, defensive rookie of the year, we had two absolute bangers in a row right before this year in Micah Parsons, who had one of the great pass rushing rookie seasons. I mean, there were like it was mocked and ridiculed. Like there were like people throwing out the name Lawrence Taylor when Micah Parsons was a rookie. It was dumb. It was dumb. But it just kind of shows you the gravitas of the Micah Parsons situation from a very early stage. And then Sauce Gardner, who is maybe the best rookie corner in years until this year, and the guy got hurt. But I mean, this year you look at Devin Witherspoon and Will Anderson and Jalen Carter and maybe the best guy who got hurt in week 3 in Christian Gonzalez. Was this the best defensive rookie of the year race in years?
I think as far as I can think of, in terms of just the pure race, like all those guys that you mentioned before, great players, and they had incredible rookie years, but like there just was not the same level of competition. There's multiple guys that you could have made an argument for this year, and in terms of who I think should have won it, I do think they made the right call with Anderson. I like very recently just hopped on that train. I was Team Carter pretty much all 18 weeks of the season, but looking at the like pass rush win rate and double team rate and all that stuff, Anderson was up there in like the tier 1 guys of the league. Like he's in terms of those statistics, he is up there with the Garretts, the Parsons of the world. And so I do think that they made the right call, especially considering what he's been able to do in the run game this year.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that his numbers are better than what I remember seeing on the field when I watched Texans games. But ultimately, when the race was that close, I was like, man, he's the closest out of anyone to the top of his position in basically every metric I looked at. Like I was really like, in terms of eye test, I really thought it was Witherspoon for a while there. But then I really looked into the numbers and I was like, okay, Witherspoon, probably like top 20-ish corner this year. Will Anderson, maybe a top 10 edge rusher this year. And obviously like Kobe Turner with the Rams. He was really good. But I don't know. I just feel like Will Anderson had the best argument, like the most responsible argument at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Witherspoon a lot for a lot of the year. But I think Anderson
He was awesome.
His overall body of work, and I criticized the trade when they made it. I didn't think it was responsible. I didn't think it was responsible for Houston to move up that much with the state of what their franchise was. But they were betting big on CJ Stroud, and the way that they made that trade makes me think they would have taken Stroud with the number 1 pick because they were clearly thinking that they could compete right away with Stroud, and they were right. They were right.
I got the vibe that it was like we're gonna take Anderson unless we can land this trade up. Then we're gonna take Stroud and then Anderson. Like I really think that Anderson was their guy. But I mean, to trade your pick, they got so much backlash for trading their pick instead of the Browns. And number 1, I don't think that Arizona would have accepted the Browns pick. Like, why would they? And number 2, I think the fact that they didn't have their pick all year just showed like immediately from the jump built an unwavering confidence that they built off of. And I think that's part of the reason that they were good. Like they knew it from the jump. There was no expectation for this to be a rebuild. Like their expectation was to compete.
Yeah, that building knew that they were gonna be really good. I mean, Will Anderson this year. I mean, he only had 7 sacks, but like the pass rush win rate.
Their run defense went from like he didn't go from 32 to 1. Like
I don't know. Could be worth a Google
In
search
some
right
metric,
now,
I
but
think it was like EPA.
he was a very like legitimate contributor in the run defense. I know that before the year, a lot of people were very, very concerned about that just because at Alabama, he was making the transition from primarily playing as a wide 9 to moving more towards like a 7 or 5 technique.
Yeah.
And I think that is not a fair concern to make once you actually like turn on the tape. Like his play strength, pound for pound, is up there with some of the best ever. And I personally had no concern of him moving into a 4-3, and I think that showed in especially what he was able to do as a run defender this year.
Yeah, they went from 31 to 2 in yards, 29 to 2 in yards per attempt rushing.
Yeah.
Nico,
I mean,
you had Tyree Wilson ahead of him.
I did.
Oh,
And I
boy.
will still,
You were one of those.
I was one of those guys. I'm not super fresh on my argument, but what I will say is I am not taking my L on that until the end of next year, because I never
on Tyree Wilson or on Tyree Wilson
Tyree
being better
Wilson.
than Will Anderson.
On everything, because I never said that Tyree Wilson was going to be better as a rookie. Like it, I'm sorry, that's a take that I have to give time. Once I made the take, I think you have to give it time. Like
I'm still checking out. Oh,
I
sorry,
think
Sam.
you can say we didn't expect Will Anderson to be this good. I still think you still think Tyree Wilson's going to be great, but you're probably not expecting him to be this good.
Sure.
All right, that's more.
I think he can be this good. I don't think I expect him to be better, but
that's the responsible take here.
Nico, I'm checking out that exact same argument right now that I'm gonna give it a year or two with my Scoot over Brandon Miller take as the Hornets fan. So I'm still.
See, that's the thing. Like a Brandon Miller fan could confidently say, "Yeah, I was right." But then
I think that wasn't a hot take though.
No, I know, but I'm enough of a basketball casual, and I care enough about my agendas that I'm willing to put the team's success aside for my own narratives.
So you're just agenda man.
Yeah, for basketball
is.
That's yeah, dude. I had the opportunity to be agenda man with Witherspoon this year. You were not going to find a Seahawks fan who was lower on Witherspoon in the pre-draft process. But
I was agenda man with Gonzalez.
Yeah. Oh,
I will continue to be agenda man with Gonzalez.
I had an agenda for
the only reason I think I barely watched the Patriots like as closely as I usually do after he got hurt. He got hurt, and then Dak immediately threw that touchdown to Miles Bryant, and I'm like, all right, not watching for the rest of the season.
We all had my corner agenda. Well, the problem is that the corner that I was happy that my team drafted never actually played. Like a second round pick, he never actually played. So
I was high on him.
That was wild though. Like
I almost had him over Witherspoon, which maybe says something about my scouting abilities, but.
No,
I'd like to believe I've improved.
I'm ready for this year. I've learned a lot.
Yeah,
I actually liked Cam Smith, but regardless of that, one thing I was really shocked by, and I think everyone in the football space was shocked by it, Joe Flacco ended up winning Comeback Player of the Year. Like, what?
So unserious, man.
It's evil, dude.
It could not be more unserious.
There's nothing that pisses me off more than the like Instagram comments is like, what did Hamlin do on the field this year?
And then
it's like I thought there was a lot of
profile picture.
Like there was a lot of corny stuff around like the whole Bills situation over the last year or so. But the guy died on the field and came back and stepped on the field again.
If you're
the courage to do that, like he didn't have to step back on the field ever again. He could have just gone off, retired, and been a motivational speaker for the rest of his life.
And like, if they were totally gonna shut him down for the argument of like results on the field, why would you pivot to Flacco? Like, we can talk about guys who have overcome adversity, who have boosted their play more after being in adversity. Like Tua has a better argument for comeback player of the year than Joe Flacco. Stafford, like Baker, like I don't know. That award sucks. It truly
A couple
sucks.
years ago, remember that year when Alex Smith won?
Yeah. And it's
That's
like,
exactly what I was about to say.
People were saying
Yes.
Alex Smith or like, and like the other guy that people were
name
saying
the award after him.
Name the
Remember
award
it's
after
Hamlin,
him.
it's
the other people that they were saying in that conversation was Big Ben. Trent Williams had cancer.
Pops.
Trent Williams had cancer, and he was
Dude.
all pro.
And with Hamlin, it's
Big
get him
Ben,
out of my comeback
Big
player of
Ben
the
was
year
like
race.
a bottom
stats-
10 quarterback that year.
It's
Alex
evil,
Smith,
dude.
so
Hopefully
heartwarming.
those Steelers
Damar
fans
Hamlin,
will
So
watch.
get
heartwarming.
him out of our
Damar
faces.
Hamlin. Get him away. It's
But let's name the award after Alex Smith, who, by the way,
yeah.
was very subpar he made the playoffs in one of the worst divisions I've ever
Taylor
seen
Heineke made the
with
playoffs.
an elite defense and
immediately got outplayed by Taylor Heineke.
Yeah.
let's
I
be
still can't believe
real
I
now.
still can't believe that Heineke thing happened. Like, that wasn't a fever dream. He parlayed that into like 3 years as an NFL starter.
Yep.
That's sad. That's sad. He was still starting games this year.
He was.
Like, what the hell?
And he deserves it. He deserves to be a spot starter in the league. Like, I have no problem
Yeah.
with it.
Just like
He's not a
the
full-time starter.
yeah, the like top end backup game manager dude who can
He's
kind of
the
just
new
come in.
Fitz. He's literally the new Fitz.
He is the new Fitz. Yeah.
Like-
with the weakest arm in the league.
But
If
he thinks he
Fitz-
has the best.
If Fitz decided to try and throw lefty for a little while, that's the type of quality of play you'd be getting out of Taylor Heineke.
All right. I know you have your opinion on defensive player of the year. We only have a couple minutes left, though. So
Should we?
let's ignite that debate.
Okay. Well, you know what they're saying. You know what they're saying around the block right now. Never ask a man his salary, a woman her weight, or a TJ Watt fan about his double team rate. Never, because they don't want you to know the rate of double team. And I had so many people telling me, well, it's because he plays
Scott
wide
just
nine.
joined in the bottom, so
it's-
I'm watching his face right now as we slander his favorite player.
Yeah, they told me it's impossible to double a wide nine. No, it is not. Do you not watch football? Plenty of times they will bring an extra tight end or running back into the pass blocking scheme specifically to double the wide nine. Like sometimes it's a chip, and I get it. It doesn't count when it's a chip block, but you can double a wide nine. And the reason that Garrett is not lining up at the wide nine position is because he's so freaking athletic that they line him up at every single technique across the line of scrimmage, and he creates production at all of them. Garrett is far and away, he's a full tier ahead of TJ Watt as a pass rusher. I do not understand. Like, I don't care about the sacks. Watch the freaking game.
I mean, we all know who the real defensive player of the year was.
Christian Gonzalez. Patriots defense sucked without him.
14 in Baltimore. 14 in Baltimore.
14 in Baltimore.
I'm soft launching that take. 14
Oh,
in
I
Baltimore.
was so high
He's
on
the new
Kyle Hamilton.
Derwin. He's my new Derwin.
All right,
Dude.
Nico, we have 1 minute to just
Okay.
get it all out. Get it all out with the Max Crosby, TJ Watt thing.
Max Crosby, league leader in run stops, league leader in run stop win rate, league leader in tackles for loss, the best run defending edge in the league. Also, very top of the league in pass rushing, top 10 in pressures, top 10 in sacks, top 10 in quarterback hits. I'm telling you, like, he was clearly the best in one aspect of being a defender, and he was also very high at the top of the other aspect of being a defensive player. And he also had the least help out of anyone. Like, compare the Raiders defensive line to like the Cam Haywards, like the DeMarcus Lawrences, the Osa Odazigbas, the Darius Smiths, the Dalvin Tomlinsons. Like, he didn't have anyone of that caliber. And to me, he was the defensive player of the year. He also had plenty of clutch moments. Like, I don't understand how people would say like, oh, he's just racking up these secret numbers when no one's watching. Like if you watch the close moments, he had a lot of big time pressures.
What was the thing you texted me?
When he had the game-winning strip sack on Mac Jones. And if TJ Watt did that, Steelers fans would never shut up about it.
If Mahomes
Dude, they hang a banner outside the stadium for it.
They would hang a banner.
To win the
TJ
game.
Watt, strip sack Mac Jones.
They build a statue.
All right, Jackson, we gotta let you go. I need one thing.
Okay.
You. Score. Who's gonna win? What's gonna be the score? What color is gonna be the Gatorade?
All right. Who's going to win? As a Seahawks fan, I hate to say it, but it will be the San Francisco 49ers in a high-scoring 33-31 affair. Christian McCaffrey will be 33-31 affair. Christian McCaffrey will be holding the Super Bowl MVP trophy by the end of the night, and the Gatorade is going to be red. You've heard it here first.
All right, thank you, Jackson.
Thank
And
you,
that was a
Jackson.
great segment. Now we have another
was
great
awesome.
one coming for you.
Awesome.
I got two guests coming here. We got Scott Nance and Mason Kinahan joining us to talk early
go.
thoughts on the NFL draft. Nico, so Mason, you were in Mobile.
Yeah.
For the Senior Bowl. That's where I want to start. I want to start in Mobile because what starts in Mobile?
The draft.
The draft starts in Mobile. The great hashtag that you see all week. Mason, what was your main takeaway from Mobile?
I think, well, there's a lot, but I think one of the main ones was that this wide receiver class is very deep, and you can get a guy with pretty much any type of play style, any type of that can fit any scheme really deep into day 2, maybe into day 3 as well. There's a lot of different wide receivers, and you're not gonna have to spend a high premium quality draft pick on a wide receiver if you don't want to, and you want to prioritize a different position because there's just so many good players that really should end up going in the second round, maybe high in the second round, that are going to fall into round 3 and round 4 just because of there's just so many of them.
Yeah, it's. I feel like we continue to have these excellent receiver classes year in and year out. Maybe a few years we don't get quite as much, but this year it's going to be another great year. I mean, Scott, I don't know how much of the depth you've gotten into this year, but there's some guys out there.
Yeah, I've sorry, I haven't gotten into I've watched 50 guys completely so far, so I haven't gotten into the deepest parts of the draft yet, but I really like a lot of the depth from what I've seen. Both at corner, receiver, and offensive tackle for sure has a ton of depth. Defensively speaking, on the line and in just the front 7, it's not as deep, but that offensive tackle class, the wide receivers, the corners, the quarterback class, there's just a lot of depth that we just don't usually expect to have.
Is your voice okay?
I've been sick the past 3 or 4 days, so I'm a little
But
bit
he's grinding through it for us.
I'm a
This
little
is
bit dead right
the
now.
Scott Nance flu game.
Yeah,
All
and I've barely spoken this morning. It's 9:45, so I need to warm up a little.
All right. Anyway, let's go through the positions here. Obviously, the debate, the quote unquote debate that everyone has at the top of this draft is Caleb Williams and Drake May. These are the top 2 quarterbacks in the class, but it kind of starts after that. Most people kind of think the draft starts at number 3, but I want some thoughts here on Caleb Williams and on Drake May. Nico?
Caleb Williams and Drake May. So I've been watching more Caleb recently. I'll be honest, I've watched a lot more Caleb than I have watched May. And I think some of the criticisms are very valid. I think that there are reasons to be concerned with him. Sometimes it's really hard because, good Lord, that offense is so weird. Lincoln Riley, it blows my mind how many screens he calls that just do not work. And it's not like he's really setting the table for anything. But I think with Caleb, I think what stands out is he is a very strong body, very, very creative. He doesn't usually run into defenders or anything. He is pretty accurate from what I see, top-notch accuracy. I've got the vanilla take where I just sometimes question, is he going to take the layups? Is he going to get the ball out quick? Is he going to give you a sort of flow, or is he just going to insist on doing his own thing to an unsustainable extent? That's really all I have to say at this point. I've watched about 5 games or so. Want to get into some of the games from last year. I've mainly been rewatching some of the stuff from this year, like the Arizona State. I watched Oregon. I watched UCLA. But I want to get into a little more of like the better parts of him. I feel like I've just seen the worst. And if the worst is that I'm still very high on him, then we're fine.
Yeah. Just overall, you look at what these quarterbacks can do. The 2 franchises are extremely lucky to be in positions to get them. Mason?
Yeah. I mean, we talk about Chicago and their entire situation with Caleb Fields, all of that, and Washington.
You're always talking Chicago.
Yeah, and then Washington, of course, at 2. I really feel like both these teams, at the end of the day, will end up going Caleb Williams and then Drake May. But I mean, the stuff that we're gonna have to go through over the next few months with all of the different possible situations, the trades, all of that. At the end of the day, these are 2 quarterbacks I think are going to be franchise quarterbacks at the end of the day, but it's just going to be a matter of who's going to be picking who, pretty much.
Scott?
So yeah, I really like both Caleb Williams and Drake May. I think that both of them. So I've watched prospects since 2020 was when I started, and I've got Caleb Williams as either the 2nd or 3rd best guy I've ever watched, and then Drake May is my 4th. So I really like both of them. I think that Williams has so much natural talent and that playmaking ability. And his accuracy is so good. He's such a good runner. And I think that Drake May is like a step down in the natural talent side of things. But I love how he manipulates defenses with head fakes, pump fakes. He can look off. He has some no-look throws on tape. And that's where I come across with I compare Drake May to Matthew Stafford with more legs. And I just really because I like that. I think he has a similar arm talent, similar accuracy to Stafford, but I think that, and they both manipulate defenses like that. I think that's one of Stafford's best traits, which is why I came to that comp in the first place. But yeah, I think Mays just adds more as a runner, more in the terms of Trevor Lawrence as a runner, which is why you're going to see some Trevor Lawrence comps. You might see some Jordan Love comps, but yeah,
I've seen Jordan Love comps.
I get the Jordan Love comps. Jordan Love, I was close to giving him that comp. Yeah. So yeah. I just really like both of them.
I've got a question for you guys, though. Can we all agree that Jayden Daniels should not be trickling into these talks in the top 2 of the draft?
No.
Because that to me, I don't care how much the talk, I don't care how hot the steam gets, I'm not budging on that.
I will have my response to that will be dictated by whether the Patriots draft him or not. If the Patriots draft him, he's the best quarterback in the draft. If they don't, he's number 3.
He performed at the highest level in college.
Just saying. In college last year.
And if the Patriots draft, I think it's down to Marv and Jayden Daniels. Make your pitch elevator pitch for the Patriots to take whoever you think the Patriots should take at number 3. Should it be Marv? Should it be Jayden Daniels? Should it be an offensive tackle and I stop watching football forever?
Yeah, well, that's what some reports are saying with if Elliott Wolf led the draft team, they'd draft a left tackle or something. But I think they should go with Jayden Daniels. It's kind of tough situation that they're in. They don't really have a quarterback. I feel like at the end of the day they won't, and they're going to get someone in free agency or trade for someone. But I just feel like it's kind of just a big reset in New England, and if I'm the Patriots, I don't want to be rolling into next year with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback or some kind of veteran guy isn't the long-term answer. I want a guy that can develop, and Jayden Daniels, I know you have the high ups and then the low downs with him, but I think that's a guy you can develop. And even though it might be, in my opinion, a little bit of a stretch to take him that high, I think you need to start a rebuild with a quarterback, and that he's your guy.
You just gotta hope that you get like a Mike Evans or a T Higgins in free agency because
Mike
you
Tomlin,
can't-
AB.
shut up because you can't not support Jaden Daniels if you're gonna draft him. And the guy had freaking Malik Neighbors and company catching passes for him this year. That's a first round top 10 slam dunk #1 receiver in most drafts guy. I mean, he's awesome. I know Scott is nodding his head. He's such a big Malik Neighbors fan.
Yeah, I love Malik Neighbors. I also love Marv. I love Marv more than Neighbors, so I think that's why the Patriots should go with Marv at 3, just because I think Jaden Daniels is a really good quarterback. He's worth a top 10 pick. But I don't think he's worth a top 5 pick. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. And especially when you have a guy like Marvin Harrison, you have a guy like Malik Neighbors on the board, you'd obviously go Marv over Neighbors. But I just think that, yeah, if you can get a receiver in free agency, then there's an argument to be taken to take Jaden Daniels, and I'm not going to go against it because the quarterback class next year is really weak. You're going to be dealing with Ryan Tannehill, maybe at best Kirk Cousins, but why? I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to end up in
$40 million of mid
for 2 years. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that Marvin Harrison is too good to pass up, and you can then build a really good core to then draft a quarterback into, maybe not next year because the class is really weak, but the year after that. And I know that's like a lot to say, okay, you're going to be in QB purgatory for 2 years, but I feel like that might be the price you have to pay in order to build the roster around him and build the roster around your future quarterback that who knows who it's going to be, and then come back and hit in the draft after that.
Yeah, I just think that like sometimes you got to get a quarterback. Sometimes you just got to get talent. I don't think the Patriots can go wrong with either Jaden Daniels or Marvin Harrison, but there's definitely like I don't think that either of them are inherently the right choice either, because there's downsides to taking a receiver and just not having a quarterback for him, and there's downsides to taking a quarterback and not having a receiver for him.
I'm very interested in the leverage war they could get into with Arizona at number 4. Because I really think there's a scenario where they could say, hey, Arizona, give us some high picks to stop us from taking Marv right now. And they might budge because they have a bunch of extra picks from last year's draft. And then you can move down, get extra capital, draft Jaden Daniels, get some quality receivers day 2. Like, I could very well see that happening. If I'm at 3, I'm taking Marv, but I'm not opposed to doing that sort of trade down and taking Jaden Daniels because I don't think he's getting out of the top 4.
No chance. I mean, he's
not.
Someone would move up.
Vikings will come calling. The Falcons will come calling. The Raiders will definitely come calling. I'm like 100% convinced that the Raiders want to trade up for Jaden Daniels. Like, that is the team I am sure of with his connections to Antonio Pierce. Yeah, and obviously how well he could fit in a Luke Getsy offense. As funny as that is, like he really would be a great quarterback for Luke Getsy.
Yeah, I think that he would be a good fit there. I mean, I think he's one of the most talented.
He's good, man. Like, I don't have any major concerns with him.
No, I think, yeah, he's a little thin. I do buy that. He can tend to maybe run a little bit too much, but there's nothing about Jaden Daniels that you can't coach into. And maybe he's developed some habits because he's 23 years old or whatever. But I mean, he won the Heisman Trophy for a reason.
Yeah.
All right, moving forward from the quarterback situation, talk about the defensive side of the ball. Who are your top defensive prospects in this draft, and what makes them so attractive?
So I'm still like going through the defense right now, for myself. But some of the guys that stood out to me, I know, Scott, we were talking about it last night, but Nate Wiggins out of Clemson, the corner.
Oh yeah,
he's my favorite corner in this class. He's, in my opinion, he's the best corner in this class. So,
I would assume that if he's your favorite.
Say that again.
I would assume that if he's your favorite.
Yeah, he's definitely very good. He's going to be very good. But as well, like a lot of the edge rushers, some pretty good edge rushers I know towards the top or expect to be at the top. like Latu, Chop Robinson,
Latu.
Dallas Turner. Like Latu's very good. It's just going to be a question with his medicals, but yeah, those are some of my top guys.
Scott?
So yeah, just piggybacking off the Nate Wiggins thing. I finished my eval on Nate Wiggins yesterday, and I love him so much. He reminds me of Greg Newsome coming out, except for
Ooh.
the fact that Greg Newsome had some injury concerns and just was like, I feel like he didn't face, like, I don't know. And it was like that it was a COVID year. I think that there were a little more question marks with Newsome. Wiggins, he's so athletic, he's so long, he moves the best of any corner in this class. Against North Carolina, he clocked in at over 22 miles per hour on a chase down, like a forced fumble where the ball then goes out of the end zone, and what he basically turns what would have been a touchdown into Clemson football for like, which was just incredible. One of the best plays I've seen by any prospect this entire season. And yeah, so Wiggins is just so special. I have a borderline top 10 grade on him, and I feel like people aren't talking about this cornerback class in that light. Some people are putting Terrion Arnold up there, and I like Terrion Arnold. Like, he's a more volatile corner. He's going to give up yards. He's going to get beat, but then he's going to make great plays in the run game. He's going to make great plays on the ball. Arnold is really, really good as well, but I feel like he's a little bit more of that mid-first round guy versus Wiggins has potential to be a top 10 pick, in my opinion. And then moving on to the edge rushers, I'd put Dallas Turner as my number one, just because I think he's so long. He's really athletic. He definitely needs some like cleaning up, but I think he's the cleanest prospect, I feel like, because Latu has his concerns with he doesn't have quite the number one, like top 10 overall pick, like athletic profile. He's really athletic, and I think people are slamming him unnecessarily, but he's not as athletic as like Dallas Turner, Chop Robinson, even Jared Verse. And Verse is also really good, but Latu's my edge too.
Upstate New
Then-
York legend.
Exactly. Yeah, so, and I love Verse. Chop Robinson, a little bit more, have a little more questions about. I'd give him like a late first round grade. He's just a lot more raw and not much production, not even much bend for a speed rusher. Like, he's really just explosive and speed to power with a little bit of bend, but he's not the bendiest guy. So I give him like a late first for him. But yeah.
All right, moving on from the defensive side of the ball, moving back to the offensive side of the ball. One of the favorite positions to discuss when it comes to the draft is always the running backs, because even if you don't want to take them super high, they're super fun to scout and evaluate. Who's been the most fun running back to watch so far? Nico?
I mean, I'm a Braylon Allen guy. I'm not. I don't think anyone is flirting with round one this year at the running back spot, but that to me is a guy who great power. I think he's a guy who can handle a ton of touches. I think he's a guy who is subtly crafty. For a bigger guy, he's a bit on the craftier side. I don't know, man. He's really impressed me from the jump. Just the strength he plays with. He's just such a natural, man. It's like clearly he's special if he was doing that stuff at such an early age at Wisconsin. Like clearly there's something special to him, and I think that obviously he serves a valuable role for a lot of different offenses. I could really see him. I could really see like a guy like Jim Harbaugh wanting him in that offense. So,
all right, Scott.
I like Braylon Allen too. I have him RB4 just because I have questions about his like elusiveness, his like acceleration to get up to that top speed. Like, he's kind of like a discount Derrick Henry in a way. Like, I feel like Derrick Henry needs time to like get up to his top speed, and if you can get him before he can get up to speed, then he doesn't have that much to go against it. The guy I was most impressed with was Trey Benson from Florida State. I think he has great like power, balance, elusiveness. I think he can add a lot in the receiving game. He's got really good speed. Like, I think he'll run low 4.4. I think Trey Benson is a really talented player. Some other names to think about are Jonathan Brooks from Texas. Just the ACL is going to be a little bit of he was really fun. He's so like shifty, and I like his vision a lot. Really good receiver. I don't know, and I also really like Bucky Irving. Like some people, I feel like aren't talking about him because he's really small, but
I
like
like-
I
He's
feel
got
like with
great contact balance.
I feel like with success of people like Jameer Gibbs, I think he's like a slower, but like a slower, little bit smaller version of Jameer Gibbs in a way, and like just worse. Like I have a second or third round grade on Bucky Irving. I just think Irving's really good, and he'll be able in with the way the NFL is today. I think he'll be able to make an impact in so many different phases of the game.
I mean, I watched him plenty at Oregon because Oregon was really damn good. He's awesome. He's super fun. One of the most fun players in the country. Mason,
I
my
love
favorite running
Oregon
back.
offense. It made me so high on Jackson Powers Johnson too. Like I know everyone loves that guy, but
I know one guy who
it's
really loves
impossible
that
not
guy.
to. It's impossible not to be a big Jackson Powers Johnson guy. Just such a clean prospect across the board.
Yeah,
I feel like all the best like offensive lineman prospects are just like so universally like
Sometimes
every-
it's really easy to see coming. Like
every
the
year, like
Skulls,
all the top
Linderbaums.
line prospects are just like, hey, this is the top line prospect. He's really good. He doesn't really make mistakes.
I feel like it's
Here's
especially
Quentin Nelson, first team All Pro as a rookie.
It's especially like that for interior guys. I feel like interior guys, you just like chug away. Like there's more variability with
You
tackles.
just
Like
know.
yeah,
people are gonna like do it.
Even Trey Smith, like that guy was like a first round prospect until he got hurt, and like he was like a sixth. He got picked in this sixth
take
round,
the gamble, man. Like
and like he immediately like just turned into a stud. Like because he was really good in college.
but
Mason, your favorite running back?
yeah, it's Bucky Irving. It's Bucky Irving. I just think like his change of direction ability, his contact balance, Nico, like you mentioned, it's so good. I haven't gone to Jonathan Brooks yet. Yeah, I haven't gone to Jonathan Brooks yet. He's like the only top running back in my opinion that I haven't really got to. But like his ability to flip his hips, change the momentum and stuff like that. I don't think any other running back in this class is like it. So
All right,
he's my best.
All right, I'm gonna name some names, just some rapid fire, just like one sentence thoughts on the names that I'm about to say. Joe Alt, Nico,
Joe Alt, I haven't watched him, so you
Scott.
should-
I haven't watched him either yet.
No,
Nathan.
I haven't watched him.
All right, nobody here cares about tackles. Brock
They're
Bowers.
my next position.
Brock Bowers,
Hours.
One sentence, Nico, go.
not generational, but very easily one of the best players in this draft.
Scott,
Worse than Kyle Pitts, but a top 12 pick.
Mason,
Very, very good tight ends, but not like elite.
Cooper DeJean, Nico, go.
Cooper DeJean, scheme dependent, but I think he will be a very versatile piece.
Scott,
I'm gonna spend a little more than one sentence just because I watched him yesterday too. He is so fun. I think he needs to go to somewhere.
Iowa
that's
should have
gonna
won
use
that
him.
game against, I think it was Minnesota. That was a bullcrap call. It was a bullcrap call. We deserved Iowa in the college football playoff conversation.
It would be a travesty though to use Cooper DeJean only as an outside corner. Like he
Yep.
can do it, but he is such a good safety, such a good slot corner. He looks so special in that regard. But like I'll take him in like the 20, like at pick 20 or something. I don't like just because he is scheme dependent, like you said, Nico.
Cover 3
All right,
outside
Nathan,
corner
go.
could work too, though.
Mason, go.
That's a fun player that is pretty scheme dependent in my opinion, but he's very versatile and it's definitely very fun to watch. So,
Kool-Aid McKinstry, Nico, go.
I haven't watched him.
Scott,
He is lockdown, but not super athletic or big play, but lockdown and technical.
very speedy and can keep up with pretty much anyone.
all right. JJ McCarthy,
Has everything you'd want, but I have not seen him handle much adversity.
Scott,
A moldable ball of clay for someone to get their hands on.
Mason,
Yeah, sorry, that was pretty much after. Yeah, I'd definitely say young guy that has a lot of potential and is definitely, I would say, pretty underrated right now.
Michael Penix, Nico,
A very advanced thrower of the football, but I really don't know if he can move one bit.
Scott.
Big arm, great deep ball, not much else.
Mason.
Statue.
Bo Nix. Nico, go.
Bo Nix. I am not sold.
Scott.
I'm not sold.
He's Brock Purdy. Take that as it
All
will.
right. All right. Mason, go. Bo Nix.
He's fairly consistent, I would say. But that's pretty much it. It's not like
All right.
incredible.
One more guy. I want you guys to all pitch in one guy that you like that nobody's mentioned yet. Nico.
Quinion Mitchell. Anyone who's consistently winning one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl is stamped.
All
Any
right.
corner.
Scott.
I already talked about guys that I like, so I'm gonna say someone I don't like. I don't like Troy Franklin at all. I think he's just too skinny. He's
Speed
weak.
guy.
He's a speed guy that's not even like super duper fast. I think he's like 4.4 flat speed. Like I don't think he's game breaking. I don't think he's a good enough route runner to be as small as he is. He's
All right.
because he's
Move on. Mason.
Brian Thomas, I think, is definitely a top 20 guy, and he pretty much has everything you want in an X receiver.
All right. Now, one more thing from each of you. Scott, who's going to win? What's the score going to be?
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to win. It's going to be 31-27, and Patrick Mahomes is your Super Bowl MVP.
And Mason, who's going to win?
Chiefs 27-21. Mahomes is MVP, but
Thank
that's
you.
the game.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Mason. Wait,
Awesome.
what does Usher open with? Either of you guys have either of you guys
Hold on.
think you know?
I'm
Don't look it up. Don't look it up.
Yeah,
We
I'm
don't have
not.
time.
I'm going to go with I don't know.
All right, yeah. All right, let's get you two out of here. Thank you so much for joining. We got a couple big more segments coming up.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course,
Awesome.
always. All right, that was fun, wasn't it?
That was.
You know what it's time for? Some more fun. Mr. Knob is in here.
The hashtag Chiefs.
The hashtag. It's time to talk about the hashtag Chiefs.
Somehow, some way, we're here.
So when I texted you that you were going to be doing the "How They Got Here" hashtag Chiefs segment,
Yeah.
you said "How They Got Here." I still don't fucking know. So just take and Knob's actually going to be with us for the rest of the hour, going over the rest of this stuff. So obviously, reigning Super Bowl champions,
Yeah.
target on your back.
Right.
Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in football. Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift thing. By the way, an hour and first mention of Taylor Swift. Probably not the last. There will be prop bets about her, I think. But
Bro, yeah.
the Kansas City Chiefs entered the season with a target on their back. How did you feel about the Chiefs coming in?
You know, I was at that Christmas Day game against the Raiders. It was the first game my sister went to at Arrowhead, and like I was excited for that. Just to like have that experience. I was expecting the Chiefs to win since we own the Raiders, and then Andy Reid dials up a designed handoff to Mahomes, and then the Raiders scored a defensive touchdown. I take a bite out of my pizza, look up, and Mahomes throws a pick six. And at that point, I lost all hope for the season. And essentially, my mindset, even to this day, is, I didn't expect us to be here. So whatever happens, happens, and if it's good, great. And if it's bad, it's what I expected. And so that was kind of my mindset after the Christmas Day game. I didn't really expect them to go on a deep playoff run, but here we are. They've done it yet again, but they've done it differently. It's been on the back of their defense more so than their offense. And we'll get into that more, but it's been a unique year just seeing these struggles with the offense while the defense has been the dominant factor. And then the offense kind of getting the competency during the playoffs, while the defense is even more so leveled up than they have in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, it was not the same year. This is the worst Chiefs record since Patrick Mahomes became the starting quarterback. They went 12-4 his first year and second year, then 14-2, 12-5, 14-3. This year they went 11-6. Also, the worst offensive season for the Kansas City Chiefs in terms of total points scored since 2014, and a lot of those seasons were not 17 games.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs also had their fewest points allowed since 2015. As you mentioned, the defense a lot better, the offense a lot worse. The offense figuring it out because you have Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in football. At what point what was the point where you started to realize that they were turning it around?
I would say, I mean, that Cincinnati game was probably the game where you saw more of the offense getting more dynamic. Rashee Rice was someone who I said had a lot of potential, but a guy who we really didn't see stretch the field much. But then in that Cincinnati game, they really opened up things for him down the field. I know that infamous play against, I believe it was Cam Taylor-Britt on the outside where he torched him for like a 60-yard gain. That's when you really started to see things open up downfield. And there hasn't been much of a downfield attack even through these playoffs. But the versatility that they've been able to kind of counter these defenses with due to the development of a guy like Rashee Rice, due to Kelsey playing a lot better, getting a lot more healthier after that week off in the final week of the regular season. I think that's when you really started to see things click for this offense. And from there, it's really been smooth sailing ever since.
Nico?
Yeah, I mean, I really just feel like it was like in Andy Reid, we should have never written him off, because at the end of the day, he saves some of his best stuff for the playoffs. And I think something that's really interesting, and I know like Nick Wright has talked about it. the man, the myth, the legend.
Hey, Nick Wright, Syracuse legend.
I know, like, the regular season is almost like an experimenting ground for the Chiefs, and like, it would really make sense if you paid attention to some of those games, like the Broncos game especially. They were really experimenting a lot of stuff, and I think like when the defense has been so trustworthy, Pacheco has been good in the playoffs when they've asked him to do stuff. I don't know. It's really hard to analyze them. Besides the whole, it's just destiny factor, because that really just does feel like what's going on. It's very inexplicable.
Like, I've just never been one to doubt Patrick Mahomes. Like, I know I've doubted him in past Super Bowls, like an absolute idiot. Twice I picked against him. The one time I picked him, he lost. Again, I haven't correctly predicted a Super Bowl since I started doing the Super Bowl special. This is year 5.
Year 5.
Hopefully we get it right this year. But my point is also I think Isaiah Pacheco, being as good as he is just a revelation. I didn't think he was. Even last year, I didn't think he was this good at times. He's taken his game up, I think, in moments. 85 yards per game in the playoffs. They've really leaned on him when they need to, because the passing attack just isn't there like it has been in the past. Travis Kelce is not quite the same player, even though he's starting to figure it out. But then this team's third leading receiver is Justin Watson. This team's third leading receiver is the leading receiver in Ivy League football history, Justin Watson. Justin Watson was a healthy scratch as a specialty for the Bucs. Whatever it was.
He was like the wide receiver 7.
Jalen Darden was ahead of him on the depth chart.
Yeah.
Legend Jalen Darden.
Yeah, no. I think you mentioned Pacheco, and he damn near broke his back against the Packers in that one game. And then he was ruled out for a couple games, and the Chiefs had one of their worst offensive stretches. Shout out Clyde. He played a lot better towards the tail end of the season. But, Clyde is no Pacheco, both in the run game and both in pass protection, although he's gotten a lot better in pass protection. And that's really been something that they missed during that stretch where they were kind of fizzling out on offense. But then now they've kind of gotten that gear back. And the loss of Jerick McKinnon very early into the season forced Pacheco to become an even better pass protector than he was in the season. That's been huge as well. He's coming back today too. We'll see how much snaps he gets, but just Pacheco's development, both as a rusher and as a pass protector, has been pretty huge for this offense.
Nico?
Something I've kind of thought about with this Chiefs team is, are we sure that this team is any worse than the others, or do we just have a natural bias towards the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah. I So I would say it was worse until the offense started figuring it out. Like I would say it was undoubtedly like their worst team, due to the fact that the offense just, I mean, relative to what we've seen, wasn't that good. I mean, even relative to the rest of the league, I mean, they were closer to average than they were elite throughout the entire season. And so due to that, I mean, it was pretty confident in saying that they were the worst iteration of the Chiefs. But I mean, when that offense is clicking, I mean, they're as good as any version of the Chiefs. I mean, I think Mahomes is even a better player than he was last year. I know the stats won't necessarily reflect that, but with with context considered, I mean, he's leveled up even from that 2018 year where he had one of the best statistical years ever to last year where he basically had to do everything on offense, won MVP. I mean, I think he's even leveled up from there. And so, I mean, like you guys have said repeatedly, if he figured it out and the rest of the weapons at least figured it out, and one of those young guys developed to come January, I mean, it's a pretty hard team to stop. I mean, considering the defensive success. And so, as far as the worst team of the Chiefs goes, it's hard to say that now. I mean, throughout the regular season, I would have been on board, but right now, I mean, they're in the Super Bowl, and we've seen the Chiefs, who had the number one offense in 2018 with the number 32 ranked defense, not make the Super Bowl. And we've seen other Chiefs teams come up short as well. And so, yeah, I think defensive success is harder to maintain than offense. And I think it's easier to figure it out on offense from like a year-to-year basis than it is on defense. And so once the offense figured it out, I wouldn't say they're the worst. Yeah.
I'd also say like the offensive line took a noticeable leap in these playoffs, and I know that Andy Reid has probably added a little more chip help, you know, having Pacheco for pass protection, like you mentioned. But they've done a good job hiding the issues at tackle, and they were definitely glaring, like especially in that Raiders game. That was atrocious tackle play.
Entering the season, Patrick Mahomes had not played a single playoff road game. One of my favorite stats ever. He went on the road.
The most obviously built road warrior before it happened, by the way. Like, it was so obvious.
I mean, yeah, because he's the best quarterback we've maybe ever seen. Goes on the road to two tough environments in the snow, in Buffalo, in the tough environment of Baltimore, loud crowd, great.
They got all the legends out.
Yeah, they brought like every legend ever out. They brought like the entire 2000 Ravens defense.
Yeah, no, I think Kelsey said on his podcast that before the fourth quarter they brought out Terrell Suggs, and he's like, "Hey, that's my old teammate." So yeah, no, it was definitely a hostile path. Like it was, I mean, I've seen like the DVOA metrics and all stuff like that, but just like even without that, like where they say it's one of the hardest runs ever, like considering like where this team was like a month ago, and the fact that they did blow out Miami. Sorry, Nico, but I mean even then, like Miami was a good team this regular season. They were a good offense. I mean the Chiefs,
they're the most obvious playoff dropper ever.
I'm not gonna rub it in like that.
I will. I will. I know my team doesn't drop in the playoffs.
I know your team hasn't seen the playoffs in a very long time.
Very long time. We still have won 6 Super Bowls more recently than you've been to one.
That's fair.
Fair enough.
But no, like Miami had an elite rushing attack, and that was kind of the game plan to attack the Chiefs defense throughout these playoffs. If there was any like criticism you can have of this elite unit, it was the fact that they were bad at stopping the run. Miami came in with an elite rushing offense. They didn't get much offensive success. The Bills, who saw the most offensive success, they even got 200 yards on the ground. It just didn't matter much.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the Ravens, who had probably the best rushing attack with their quarterback runs, with their pulling guards, with the best like running backs as far as like efficiency goes. None of it mattered. And you could say like that was due to a lack of volume of runs, but I mean, they didn't run as much due to the fact that the Chiefs got out to an early lead and they couldn't muster much offensive success to begin with. And so like the theme throughout these playoffs, and you're going to see it tonight as well, has been, the Chiefs are going to face this elite rushing attack, and how are the Chiefs to stop it? and it just hasn't really mattered because they're so good at shutting down stuff in the air. And Spags plays heavier boxes in order to get teams to either beat them through the air, which they haven't been able to do, or he's confident that the DBs can hold up if they do run the ball. And so, yeah, it just hasn't, like, the run defense has been an issue. I mean, they like don't really have great tackles, even though Chris Jones is great. He's a better pass rusher than he is a run blocker, and he doesn't even play a lot of like run blocking snaps as you'd expect him to. But yeah, no, the run defense, like, it's been a big point of emphasis before every game, and you're still seeing people talk about it, and it just hasn't mattered.
Yeah, I think that I want to talk now a little bit about just how this secondary that's just so great came together. I mean, you got Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed, two of the top cornerbacks in the sport. That, I mean, Sneed obviously was really, really underrated as a rookie. Kind of didn't really take the steps forward immediately, but I mean, just how great has he been this year?
He should have been an All-Pro by my estimations. I mean, I would have had him in there over Deron Bland. I would have put Jalen Johnson probably on first team. But yeah, no, Sneed.
I can't wait for Trevor Diggs and Deron Bland to play together.
They haven't, right? Or did no? I don't.
No, they did last year.
Yeah. But like an improved plan is what you mean. But yeah, no. As far as Sneed goes, I mean, people bring up the penalties all the time, but I mean, what I say about that is a lot of them like come early and they're like pretty tone-setting penalties where he like roughs up a receiver just to like get in their head a little bit. Because like I don't remember the last time, and I don't remember the last time Sneed committed a penalty like late in a game or like in a dire situation. Like it typically comes pretty early from him. And so I don't think that like penalties are bad, don't get me wrong, but like when you consider everything else he does, I mean, he has been as shut down as really any cover corner this year. And then you guys mentioned McDuffie as well. The two essentially switched from playing in the slot and playing outside. Sneed was in the slot last year. McDuffie was outside. The two essentially like switched, and then McDuffie became arguably the best nickel corner in the sport. I mean, not just being shut down in coverage, but he has been like the best blitzing corner. He's one of the best in the run game. And so like everything he does, he's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. He's shout out Honey Badger. It's not like necessarily an apples to apples comp, but like he kind of fills that like Honey Badger type role that he had with the Chiefs even better than he did. Yeah. So if anyone doesn't know the lore behind this, so when McDuffie was cooking earlier this season, and he wasn't necessarily getting the shine I wanted him to, I said, what if Trent McDuffie had like a stupid ass nickname like Sauce or Kool-Aid? Imagine how clouded he would be in that in like that sense. What if I call him like Nacho or something? And that was the first thing that came up in my head. Nacho in theory isn't even like a good nick. Like I don't know what that's supposed to indicate.
I like it though.
Like,
it just right.
It gets the people going. So
nobody knows what it means, but it's provocative. It gets the people going.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been like our little inside joke. We've been calling him Nacho whenever he does something well, and I think I called him Nacho right before that Dolphins regular season game. And like he had that forced fumble against Tyreek that went for 6, and I think the entire group chat like started spamming Nacho, and so Nacho is really
Tyreek.
Yeah, Nacho is really taking the leap this year, and it's been a big reason as to why the Chiefs defense has been
hyped up to see Enchilada Gonzalez do the same.
Amen.
All right, moving forward. I mean, even it's not just those two, but I mean, the seasons that they've gotten out of Josh Williams and Jalen Watson, just the depth in the secondary is really just incredible.
And shout out the safeties. I mean, the safeties have been incredible. Justin Reed, yeah.
Justin Reed, like that's he's been one of the most underrated players in football for like 5 years.
Shout out Justin Reed right here. But no, Justin Reed has been pretty incredible throughout the stretch. I mean, he's always been like a rotation safety type guy, like a good safety. But like against the Ravens, he was like playing out of his mind, especially as a tackler. And then Brian Cook, who was looking like the best safety that they had throughout the season, got injured against the Packers. And then they had a rookie in Jamari Connor just step up into that role. And he's been probably even better. Like that's kind of been the theme of the Chiefs this year. You know, like if a guy goes down, like we saw Mizzou made Nick Bolton go down, and Drew Tranquil filled that role.
Where?
Developed where?
Developed where? Developed here. No, but we saw Drew Tranquil fill in that role of being that linebacker with the green dot, and the Chiefs defense. I won't even I won't push too many agendas, but they were better when Drew Tranquil was in that role, and that's
better than with Super Bowl MVP Nick Bolton.
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't win it actually, given the fact that Mahomes didn't have a lot of yards. But that's a different topic. But as far as the Chiefs defense goes, I mean, even through the injuries, like the theme of the season has been next guy up, and the next guy up has been just as good, if not better. And that's kind of been a reason as to why they're so successful. Spags puts them in a good position to succeed, and yeah, that's why they're here.
Spags just cooks.
Spags is the goat.
Spags might be the best coordinator
Ever.
Best coordinator in the sport
Ever.
right now.
I mean,
Is it like the best coordinator in the sport?
Playoff risers too.
Spags is going for his 4th ring tonight.
Is it so like it's between like Spags and like Ben Johnson for the best coordinator in football?
Yeah, but like even like historically, I'm talking about like has a guy like been a coordinator? Like it's rare that you find a guy who's a coordinator as long as Spags is, and has had the level of success at the coordinator spot without getting, like multiple head coaching opportunities as Spags is. But we're probably not going to see him in a head coaching role ever again because of that Rams stint. And then as far as being a coordinator goes, I mean, he's one of the best in the business for the better part of the last 2 decades. I mean, Sam, I know you were probably like 3 years old when it happened, but the way he was able to shut down.
No, I've watched the game.
Yeah.
On repeat. I don't like watching it, but I've watched it.
But like that was one of the greatest, if not the greatest, offense entering that game. And
it was the greatest defensive game plan ever.
Spags, yeah.
And then like they used a similar formula a couple years later and beat us again.
Yeah, no. I was like, just this playoff run has been like. It like a lot of it, like everyone's gonna make Mahomes like the center of attention, as probably he should be. But you know, Spags,
I think Spags should be the center.
Spags, like they're gonna give the MVP of this game to the quarterback of whichever team wins, unless CMC gets it, of course. But if the Chiefs win, Mahomes is gonna get the Super Bowl MVP. But there could be a reality where, like, you know, we talk about that Bucs Super Bowl, and we're like Brady got the Super Bowl MVP, but really it was Todd Bowles who was the MVP of that game. We could see like a similar circumstance here where it's like Spags is the MVP of that game.
Glad we'll be able to call it even.
we sure can. But no, like the 49ers have the best offense by far, like in every metric this year. And if Spags goes out there and puts a defensive game plan out there that can really limit them, I mean, we're entering some dangerous talks. The conversations will be had.
By the way, that is UConn Husky legend Steve Spagnuolo.
Is it Husky? I didn't know that.
Well, no, he didn't go there, but he was the defensive coordinator there from 1989.
Developed where?
He was developed at Springfield College, which is better known as the birthplace of basketball.
Nice.
Dr. James Naismith invented the sport there and then went to Kansas, where he is the only Kansas Jayhawks men's basketball coach in the history of the sport to have a losing record. And he's the guy who invented the sport. Shouldn't he just be able to like, invent new rules on the sideline to better his team?
And he's still
imagine you're a referee and you're arguing with James Naismith,
the guy who
if that were the case, like, wouldn't you just say, all right, you're right, Dr. Naismith, I'm wrong?
And it's so funny because like his name is on the court in Allen Fieldhouse, and like he has like an entire shrine there. Like
he's the only coach with a losing record.
Incredible stuff. Yeah.
I love that fact. I can't believe I got to throw that into a Super Bowl special.
That is a crazy tinge.
You never know what you see.
Now it's time to go over some more stuff about the hashtag Chiefs.
Yeah.
Keys to the game.
Yeah.
So, the first thing we've talked about Spags, but what specifically does Spags have to draw up for the Chiefs to come away with a victory?
Yeah, so we talked a lot about the run defense, and I think like a similar pattern is going to be shown where you're going to show like heavier boxes. So like if San Francisco wants to run, they can run up, but like if they look at those heavier boxes and want to divert to the pass, you know that you have the DBs to hold up. And really like the key matchup, like as good as the secondary is, like the key matchup here in this game, and that's going to be very important because San Francisco has so many weapons, and those guys need to hold up, and I do think they will hold up like to a certain extent. But the key matchup here is the defensive line, and there are like damn near every like San Francisco offensive lineman outside of Trent Williams is exploitable, and Chris Jones is going to get his this game. He's going to get 1v1s. Spags is going to dial up simulated pressures, and that's really the key to the game. Can Chris Jones win consistently to get other guys sacks while getting himself sacks? Spags is going to dial up those simulated pressures to get him one-on-one, and it's basically wraps against any one of those linemen. That's not Trent Williams if he gets 1v1s. Like John Feliciano is not containing Chris Jones. Like it's just not going to happen. And really, that's the key to the game, getting pressure on Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is one of like the league leaders in batted balls. And what did the Chiefs defense do more than pretty much any other defense in the league is they bat balls at the line of scrimmage so much when they get pressure. And so that's really the key to the game. The secondary has been the backbone of this defense, but can Chris Jones and the defensive line take over? And if they do, it's going to be a rough night for Brock Purdy.
Honestly, last year, I kind of thought Brock Purdy kind of thrived a little bit in chaos.
Right.
This year, I think he's been a lot more structured, and we'll get into that plenty when we talk about the hashtag 49ers. God, I'm not going to stop doing that.
It doesn't hit the same as the hashtag Chiefs.
No, it just doesn't. Or, I mean, nothing hits it.
Or the hashtag Rockets.
Yeah, nothing gets better than hashtag Rockets. But Brock Purdy, I think this year has been a lot less comfortable under pressure. And I think particularly in this playoffs, I've kind of thought he's played some bad games.
Mm-hmm.
He has.
Now, I've been a Brock Purdy supporter. I wouldn't quite say stan, but I would say supporter this year. I kind of thought he got the short end of the stick in a lot of
The next goat.
I think he kind of got the short end of the stick in a lot of arguments where people just kind of assumed that it wasn't him. And we'll get into that when we talk San Francisco. But like, he has his clear flaws. I think he's not quite as good under pressure as he was last year. And if the Chiefs can isolate matchups, get Chris Jones one-on-ones, get Karlaftis one-on-ones, they'll really be able to cook.
Mm-hmm.
Nico?
Yeah, and one thing I would also say is like we know the 49ers, it's not as much like can your guys hold up in man when they chuck deep balls, like get beat down the field. We know that they want to use the deep middle of the field area. It's very similarly to the way the Dolphins offense runs at times. And I think the fact that Spags was so good at taking that away and, forcing Tua to take the underneath stuff, which he obviously was very hesitant. There wasn't a lot of trust that they could win in a methodical way once they shut the run down. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to is they're going to ask the Chiefs linebackers to cover probably a little more than most teams. But I don't know what they did to the Dolphins makes me feel like schematically they can definitely take that type of stuff away. And, with the Niners, they don't take as many of those real shots. It's a lot of like under center, quick throws, play action. It's just not as much of a pure passing game as others. And obviously the Chiefs could hold up either way. So I don't know. Like I think middle of the field, can Bolton get enough depth at times? Like he's going to try to get balls over Bolton and all the other linebackers. He's going to try to get balls over Gay. So that'll be a key for sure.
Yeah, and then flipping it to the offense for the Chiefs. I mean, there are like the 49ers defense has kind of been a name brand for like the better part of the last half decade. I know Colin Cowherd kind of said the same thing, but as far as like their defense goes, like there are a lot of exploitable holes yet again.
Yep.
That you could pick on.
Run defense is not.
Their run defense
Run
is
defense
atrocious.
is the conversation that really needs to be had more than the Chiefs' run defense. After seeing
We'll have this conversation when we talk about the
Are we-
Niners.
Are we sure the Chiefs are the worst run defense in this game? Are we sure?
No.
About that? Exactly. And against the pass, I mean, there are exploitable holes yet again, like Ambry Thomas and
Corners.
secondary. I mean, the only good corner is Mooney Ward. Shout out Charvarius.
Safety play has been a little shaky.
Yeah. But like the thing for me is like, can you get like Andy Reid has probably been throughout the course of NFL history the best at like scheming open touches and like scheming matchup. And can you get a guy like Rashee Rice on one of these non-Ward corners? And if you can, I mean, that's a recipe for success. You just pick on the weak links. And they couldn't really do that against Baltimore, but you saw that they did that against Buffalo, where they just picked on AJ Klein repeatedly. And like that's a recipe for success. If you're gonna have weak links out there, Mahomes is going to kill you, and they do have weak links out there. And then as far as Pacheco goes, I mean, if I was, I'm not really too much of a bettor, but like if I were to give you like betting advice, like put like a couple dollars on like a Pacheco Super Bowl MVP. Because like they might just ground and pound the entire game. We've seen them do that this season, win games in that fashion, and they might just like take it to the Niners. You know, we don't trust your run defense. We're going to keep running the ball until you stop us. And we could see the similar thing happen with San Francisco. They're just going to keep running until the Chiefs start dialing up stops. And so I think we could see the same pattern flip for the Chiefs. And so, yeah, it could be a big Pacheco game on the ground.
Yeah, I'm just tinkering around with a fancy little website we like to call rbstm.com.
Yeah.
Shout out Ben Baldwin. Since week 15, the Chiefs are 17th in rush EPA defense. The 49ers are 28th. The 49ers have the second worst rush success rate defense since week 15 in the entire league. That's kind of the thing that we're going off of here. The Chiefs have the worst rush EPA on the season.
28th.
28th since week 15. So like 6
That's
games.
what I was thinking coming into the wild card game. I was like, you know what? I have the one thing that no one's talking about, and I really that was such a fake woke take.
I mean, but like we saw the 49ers run defense get gashed 2 games in a row. Obviously, I mean, Green Bay had a chance to win that game. They couldn't get the job done. Detroit just flat out choked. Like,
I mean, it's Detroit. What did we expect?
Like they just like
well,
it's
no,
not,
like Detroit. That was inexplicable. Like
I'm giving
if
I'm
they
giving-
actually
yeah,
were
go
teaming,
ahead.
they win that game. Like
Right.
100%.
I'm giving more credit to Detroit choking than I am for the Niners adjustments. Really,
Yeah.
like it should have been over. It really should have been over. But yeah, we did see them get gashed 2 games in a row. And there's no reason that it can't happen again, especially with a quarterback running back pairing like Mahomes and Pacheco. And yeah, that really leaves a lot for me as a Chiefs fan to be confident for, due to the fact that I know like an offense that's, you know, they're not struggling right now, but they've had their fair share of struggles throughout the year. They have matchups that they can win for sure. And that's a big point of emphasis going into this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when it comes to Kansas City, we look at the Chiefs team right now, and they're going to have to run the ball to win this game because it's not going to come down to it. You can't make it all on Mahomes because when it was all on Mahomes, this team was struggling.
Like Mahomes, like when his number is called, like he will get you what you need. But like,
Yeah.
it's like you can't. It's not a sustainable way of living for an entire like 4 quarters.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. Like we talk about like sustainability in a playoff setting. This is the Super Bowl.
Right.
Like this is not just a playoff setting. The winner of this game wins like the whole season. Like we don't like I don't think we put that into perspective enough on like just what the Super Bowl is. Like so this is when we talk about sustainability. Everything you do has to be sustainable for this game.
Yeah.
Because you can't just hit like one big play and call it a day.
Mm-hmm. And like Yeah, like
I mean, that's why the 2021 Bengals didn't win.
and like you talk about sustainability, but like I think that 2019 2020 Super Bowl between the Chiefs and Niners, like Mahomes got you that big play, jet chip wasp, wide funnel, like with Tyreek, like we saw that happen. Like he got you the big play. But then after that, like everything else was just super methodical. Like they were just and it took a comeback, granted. And like they kind of had to do everything last minute, but like that was the one big play. And then from there, like the offense was like cooking in short yardage and like was cooking in the middle of the field, like intermediate range. They didn't really have like a massive explosive after that, other than the Sammy Watkins, Richard Sherman play. And so sustainability is going to be a key for both sides for offense. Like, can you do some like? And like I think a perfect example is that the Ravens offense last game. Like Lamar had that crazy touchdown to Zay Flowers, and I wasn't one bit worried because like I'm like, let's see. So this like what the Ravens have done on offense so far is really Lamar having a broken play that should have been a sack go for a 50-yard touchdown, and then he caught his own pass that should have been intercepted. And so I'm like, if this is the way they're going to cook on offense, there's really nothing to worry about because at some point it has to catch up with them. And so that's kind of the key for this one. You can't do things that can catch up to you. Like you have to have a sustainable style of offense, and that's really going to be key for both sides.
Yeah, and I just think that you look at what both of these teams can do on offense. You look at these two teams have so much to offer on offense in so many different ways. Mahomes is so good at avoiding sacks, and he's just always been able to do it. And he will run around and figure it out and find somebody, and he will make magic happen.
0 turnover-worthy plays and 1 sack throughout this entire playoffs. I think that's a big emphasis as to everything the Chiefs have done. Like, it's not been the most explosive brand of football. Even when the Chiefs' offense has been good, it's still not very explosive. But really, explosivity comes second after limiting mistakes. And the fact that a mistake-riddled team has basically eliminated all sides of it, that's really been why the Chiefs have been able to go on this run. And it starts.
Give me your top 5 funniest Chiefs mistakes of the season.
I mean, considering I was there for most of them this year, I'll say the Tony offsides one was probably the funniest because
yeah, no doubt.
That was legitimate.
No doubt. Because that was the stupidest play of the season.
Everyone in that stadium thought they just saw one of the greatest plays in NFL history when that happened. And then there was a flag, and we all thought it was on the defense and that the play was going to stand. And everyone cheered even louder when there was a flag. And it was offensive offsides. And then everyone raged. We saw Mahomes throw his helmet and try to kill the ref.
The Twitter reaction to that play was so good.
I lost so much respect. He's so classless. I'm like, oh my god. But yeah, no. That was probably the funniest one looking back.
Dude, people were talking about Mahomes said something Mahomes said something after the game, and people were like, Mahomes has no class. It's he just lost the game because an idiot had his foot where it shouldn't. For the second time, by the way, that's what that happened.
I do think his reaction where he's like, Travis might not make the Hall of Fame because of this.
That was stupid.
That press conference was so unserious, man.
he's like, you can't call it like that in that position. That's not fair. And then Andy Reid, I think Andy Reid knew that it was the right call, but he just had to stick up for Pat, and he's like, that's embarrassing from the National Football League.
He's a Hall of Famer. That is one
of a Hall of Fame player making a Hall of Fame play, and that won't get remembered when we look back on Travis's career. And it just really sucks because what if he doesn't make the Hall of Fame?
Number two funniest.
Number two is going to be an underrated one, and I think that is Andy Reid at the Chiefs' own 12-yard line on Christmas Day with a bunch of jolly, merry people in attendance, calling a designed handoff for Patrick. Like Pacheco is the wildcat, and he designs a handoff for Patrick Mahomes, which they mess up, and then it goes back for 6 for the Raiders. And I think that's an underrated, funny one because I mean, we talk about how great Andy Reid is, but like at times the fake wokeism just like takes over. Like, what new thing can I try today? And like we see the Andy Reid goal line memes. He did the opposite. What if I'm in my opposite goal line? What if I'm backed up all the way?
What is the stupidest?
Do we
possible
think
thing?
he's going to do a trick play today?
What's the funniest shit I could pull off? And he found a way to do it. He found a way. Like,
Like, Andy Reid is still one of the best coaches in football, but damn, he's an amazing troll.
Number 3 has to be the MVS drop.
the MBS drop. I mean, man, that was like going into that game, like you saw the stats about like Patrick not being like good with deep balls this year. I'm like, I promise you it's not him. Like, and then for the game, MBS, it's like the most perfect throw ever. And like Patrick at the press conference, another funny press conference, he's like, yeah, I underthrew him a little bit. Maybe I could have overthrown him a bit more. And maybe he would have caught it then. I made it hard for him. Like, the press conference.
Classless, so classless.
The press conferences have been even funnier than the plays sometimes.
Yeah, because he talks like he's got a stick up his nose.
And that, like, did you guys remember after that Bills game, the ceiling fell during Chris Jones's interview, and he's like, but yeah, no, like that was pretty funny looking back. And then like him gaming the Ravens, and he like I was so scared he wasn't going to catch that because like he was falling on his back, and like yeah, that happened the way it did. And then number two.
Probably just Kadarius Toney against the.
It's undisputed number 1. Number 2 is another Kadarius Toney moment.
The Patriots.
The Patriots interception where
Oh.
the ball. I don't know how he did that. Like I'm more impressed with the fact that he didn't catch it, but he essentially bobbled it and like kind of like gave it to the Patriots corner, like or the Patriots safety that was lurking. Like it was like so bad that it was skillfully bad. Like it feels premeditated, but no, I mean that was like a perfect pass.
Yeah, like the Patriot, like you had to try to make.
You had to try to sell that one. Like
You had to try to make the Patriots look good this year.
And then the funniest part is after that, he has not been seen on the football field since. And
Good.
basically, they gave him a season-ending injury. No, I'm healthy. No, you're out for this season with this injury. Like that, they told him he was injured.
By the way, Nico, do you know who that do you remember who that pass was picked off by?
No.
Jelani Tavai.
Hey.
But
Jelani Tavai.
second Jelani Tavai mention on the Super Bowl special.
What was the other one regarding?
We were talking about Gerard Mayo, and I was like, yeah.
There are
he's
now
really
more Jelani
Tavai
Tavai mentions than
week.
Taylor Swift mentions. Football fans, this is the show for you.
Yeah,
Right here.
I think we're at like 4
Swifties do not tap in.
Speaking of Swift, I think she's in Vegas now. So
Uh-oh.
We do have to talk about that. We
do have
to
let's talk about it.
just like the fact that Travis Kelce just went on his podcast and just like told the world, yeah, I shot my shot with Taylor Swift. And
Yeah.
like a week later, Taylor Swift is showing up to their games.
Yeah, no,
Like, how did this happen?
Bears game.
that tight end Riz. What can I say? You know, like, yeah, he pulled it off, and I'm like, if anyone can, it's Travis. No, I wouldn't say he's the most prominent boyfriend she's had, but like, he's up there for sure, and yeah, that basically.
I mean, he's one of the few that's not just gonna get remembered as Taylor's boyfriend.
Right, like there's Jake Gyllenhaal. That's the main.
Bro. Him landing Taylor Swift is a Hall of Fame player making a Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame play.
And I'm not sure if he's gonna get in
He
the Hall
will
of
be
Fame.
remembered for that. He will. I promise you, Pat. He will be remembered. Don't worry.
You might not make the Hall of Fame.
He might not make the Hall of Fame anymore after that Tony play.
How did that even happen?
The Pat saying he won't make the Hall of Fame.
No. Like how does a tight end bag Taylor Swift?
He's Travis Kelce.
I don't know.
You know that tweet. You know that tweet where it's like average quarterback tweet. Like
Derp.
I want to thank God. I want to thank my teammates.
And
Average
then
running
he
back
holds
tweet.
the
Just give me a
night
chance.
kindly.
Average tight end tweet. And that average receiver tweet. The enemy speaks kindly and holds a knife.
So,
Darius Tony.
I think like Travis has an old tweet where he spelled squirrel wrong. Like it was like SQUIRLE. Like I saw a squirrel on campus today. And yeah, that man bagged Taylor Swift. So clearly squirrel, like it's working. So yeah. That's pretty much all I have to say. And as far as like Taylor Swift herself goes, I mean, we all know like people make too much of a big like deal about showing her throughout the game. Like it's been like 40 seconds like tops like recently, and like one of them one of them was a literal like Grammy promotion. And so I'm like, dude,
there was a not insignificant amount of people that just want to watch the game for her.
Yeah.
We can give those people 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Like we have 3 hours of football.
Right.
You can have 40 seconds.
And like I don't think the NFL fan understands just how many people are actually like it's not over exaggerated.
This is going to be the most watched event in network television history.
Right. And like the thing is like they're watching it strictly for those 40 seconds, like you said, Sam. Like there are people who like one of my best friends just started watching football due to the fact that like Taylor Swift is shown every game. And like it does bring like a diverse audience of people. Like they might not know what's going on throughout the game, but it's a great way for like people to learn about the sport. Like
funniest thing that the Swifties have learned about in football this year.
I would say I think I saw a ton of Swifties like reposting my Spags propaganda. That was by far the funny because like Spags is great. Like Spags is great, but he's also like a pretty memeable guy. Like just like his facial expressions, like and like the one I posted was like him like it was like the image of him being shocked about something, and like they all reposted that, and they're like they keep doubting Spags. We'll see what happens. I was like, no coaches or like players have been nominated for like any awards, and I put a picture of Spags up there. And Spags should have been in consideration for assistant coach of the year. And like they're all like you're.
I remember seeing like stuff about like the Swifties where like they, and like it was like on the Taylor Swift Reddit, and it was like, why is Kadarius Toney still on the field? Like why can't they just bench him?
Right.
And, like I'm just thinking to myself, why do they like? Why are the Swifties?
We have real people who think that Kadarius Toney is an untapped talent in 2024. Meanwhile, the Taylor Swift newbies.
I was right about Kadarius Toney, by the way, draft time.
You were.
I didn't really watch. Like
now, my last thing. Remember when like the tweets were coming out where it's like Swifties talking, or like imagine Swifties just having an argument about like do running backs matter?
Mm-hmm.
It was like when they first started dating, and it was like. People, I think it was a lot of like tone setter stuff tweeting, just like Swifties talking about when the when Swifties talking about like quarters coverage, or Swifties talking about.
The only thing I'm disappointed in is the Swiftie juice wasn't good enough for Mahomes to get more Pro Bowl votes than Usain Miami.
But and it also wasn't enough to get Derek White into the All-Star game, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I got Shea to start, but that would have happened anyway. So,
Kadarius Toney is maybe the worst player in football this year.
The worst of all, defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
Who had a bigger impact, T.J. Watt and his uncovered sacks, or Kadarius Toney's drop balls and bobbled INTs? That's a great discussion. Steelers.
It is.
Yeah.
Now we got about 30 seconds more for you.
Yeah.
I need prediction. I need
score MVP.
I need MVP.
Predictions.
And I need your prediction on how long the anthem goes.
How long the anthem goes?
The
going to
over-under is 90 seconds.
I'll say 90 seconds.
Who's doing the anthem?
I'll say I have no clue, but I'll say the under. I'll say 1 minute and 27 seconds. So
All right, that's
getting
pretty
there.
close.
And then for the score prediction, I will go. I'll go Chiefs win by a score of 24-17. Yeah, 24-17. I think it's going to be like a medium scoring game. And Super Bowl MVP, I got Patrick Mahomes winning his third. Yeah.
All right, thank you so
much. I've been nervous, but like my brain tells me Chiefs, and my heart's with the Chiefs, so I'll go Chiefs.
All right, Nav, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll make sure to have you on again when the Chiefs inevitably make the Super Bowl next year.
We'll see.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Good luck.
Yeah.
It's now time to talk about. We've just spent a while on the hashtag Chiefs. Let's move on. Let's talk to Henry Sklar about the San Francisco 49ers and how they got here. Sklar, how you doing today?
I'm tired. It's been a long 2 months in my football fandom. Probably the longest 2 of my life, to be honest.
Yeah, Mr. Alabama and Eagles. It's really tough when it's really tough.
Today's another tough morning though, especially because Hassan Reddick is.
The people in the chat were blowing us up about that earlier. I'm like, this is a Super Bowl show.
I wipe the cross. I wake up. I wake up. I wipe the cross out of my eyes, and I see that. Like I can't go a day without a major news break about one of my teams. I swear, like it's bad.
Hey. You at least you got Kentucky with a math teacher to hold you over.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
All right. So San Francisco has they've been one of the best teams in football for the last 5 years. It's since 2019, really. They've been one of the best teams in football each year, aside from 2020. They made the conference championship game in 2021. They lost to the Rams. They made the conference championship game last year, and they lost to the Eagles. Then this year, they just come out, and people were really low on the decision to start Brock Purdy over Trey Lance this year in the preseason. And I just thought that there was no way that they could have gone back to Lance after kind of what Purdy had done and how much they'd shown.
I will actually Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, it feels like just the other day we were talking about is like Trey Lance going to be the, quarterback of the future for San Francisco. But when you look at the way that John Lynch and that whole organization, their philosophy and the way they build, they don't invest into the quarterback position from like a salary standpoint. Their like salary dispersion is crazy because they have like 6 or 7 guys making a boatload of money on top. 4 of those guys are players in the trenches, and then the other 3 are skill position players. Purdy is like he's on a UDFA deal. It's crazy because in these last 2 playoff games, he's been the answer. They've gotten outrushed in both games. Their defense has gotten gashed in both games, and Purdy's been the guy to step up and make plays for San Francisco. And it's crazy to think about that. That's where we are looking back from like 3 years ago, like thinking Lance is going to be the guy. Now we've arrived here. It's crazy.
I was never a big Lance guy, but I still thought he was a first-round prospect. I still thought he was going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL at some point, but it seems like he's never going to get that chance. And I mean, it's unfortunate for him that he kind of got hurt immediately as he was getting his role. But the fact that Brock Purdy stepped in last year when Jimmy G went down, and basically he didn't lose a game. He didn't lose a game as a starter in the regular season until week 6 of this year.
That was, man, they had that little 3-game losing streak. And I feel like that streak especially was a little blown out of proportion because it was so clearly influenced by injuries. In the Browns game, CMC left. In the Vikings game, Brock Purdy literally got a concussion while he was trying to lead a game-winning drive. And so he ended up proceeding to throw a pick. The Bengals game, they just got straight up beat. But I was never really that concerned. And then they came back like a week later and destroyed the Jags, who I was pretty high on at the time. So
Yeah, I think the Jags felt like
the Jags were such a disappointment, man.
I will never buy
Especially after
stock.
they beat the Bills, I was like, yeah, they're here.
I will never buy stock in Jacksonville. I can't get myself to do that. That franchise stinks.
Bad. It's bad.
But San Francisco, they went from 5-0 to 5-3 to 11-3. They've been a team of runs. Basketball is a game of runs. They've been a team of runs. And obviously, there was a lot of hype coming around. Mountains will be moved. Families will be fed on Christmas Day when they took on the Ravens. That was one of the most hyped up games of the season, and they laid an egg at home.
Yeah, and that's really the question I have going into this game. What 49ers team are we going to get? Are we going to get the team that we saw, against Baltimore, against the Detroit in the first half, and against the Packers in the first half? Or are we going to get the team that I saw come into Philadelphia and just destroy the 10-1 Eagles? Like, are we going to get that team? The team in the second half we saw where Purdy's extending plays and making non-game manager throws. Like, are the pass rushers going to get pushed? Is Chase Young finally going to have his big breakout game and potentially his last game in San Francisco? I don't know, but that's the real question here. Like, what Niners team are you going to get? Because you know what you're getting on the other side. You're getting Spags, and you're getting the Michael Jordan of our generation in Mahomes. Like, Mahomes is Tiger Woods. He's every GOAT athlete you can think of personified. And do they have the answer for that? On paper, it seems like their group 4 years ago had the answer for that for a while. They were up 20-10, and then they let it slip away because, Mahomes did things that the greatest of all time, like that. He did things what those players do. But this year, it seems like that.
I did not see a Tiger Woods comp coming.
Okay, I saw a post by Golf Digest, like right when I woke up. They compared like modern day golfers to players in the Super Bowl. They compared Mahomes to Rory McIlroy. That guy hasn't won a major in 8 years.
Rory hasn't won the Masters.
Like, come on, what are we doing here? Like
love Rory. I love Rory. I think he's an underrated all-time golfer. One of the best to ever do it. But what?
You're talking to me. I have to throw some golf in there. Like, come on. I'll find a way to get Alabama in.
He hasn't won the big one.
Yeah.
Who did they compare to Nick Dunlap?
Who are we comparing to Nick Dunlap in the NFL?
In the Super Bowl. Because in the NFL, it's probably
actually, maybe Purdy.
Yeah, but the other thing about Brock Purdy that I feel like people don't mention enough is that this guy was a projected first-round pick after his sophomore season.
What? No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
What are you talking about?
In after 2019, people had him in first rounds.
No, he wasn't, dude.
I vividly remember this. I vividly remember seeing multiple mock drafts having the Patriots taking him pre-2020 season.
That would have been something to see. Patriots taking Purdy. That would have been hilarious.
I vividly remember this happening. You can look it up, like CBS Sports mock draft pre-2020 college football season.
Let's see.
Or like a way too early. I vividly remember this.
But like when I make the Tiger Woods comparison, like golf is such about like, a player's like grit and like, what like metal can they bring to the table in like big moments. Like go look back at the 2019
+1 better than everyone else, and that's what Mahomes always is.
And go look at the 2019 Masters. Tiger wasn't in the lead on Sunday at points, but he was the guy who just stuck it out through adversity. Let the other guys fall off. Look at the NFL this year. These other teams fell down. The Eagles 10-1, they fell down. That was the 49ers' biggest threat in the NFC. The Eagles fall off. Who else can I get? Like the Ravens, they were the Super Bowl favorites out of the AFC. Not like no.
Yeah.
Like all these other teams face adversity and you know who's standing there in the end guarding the mountaintop? It's Patrick Mahomes. Year after year, he keeps doing it.
Where did we
And that's-
stand on San Francisco after the loss to the Ravens? Because I honestly remember
not
that
worried.
game,
I was still very confident that they were going to win the NFC.
because I remember that game being more about the Ravens than it was about the Niners.
The thing that concerned me after that game was it was Brock Purdy. You know, like some of those mistakes he made, just it didn't look like he was primed for a Super Bowl run.
I
But-
felt like it was really a Mike McDonald statement on some of those. Like some of those were just like, okay, Kyle Shanahan tells him to throw the screen. You got a nickel blitzing. He jumps in the passing lane. Like, okay. Like some of that stuff. And then like, you know, he's doing his usual thing, extending a play. He throws it to George Kittle on the run. Kittle's got the defensive back boxed out. But then the defensive back like punches it out from behind. Some of it was just, I don't know, man. Some of it was Purdy for sure. And I would also say that that game kind of exposed their offensive line, which is now widely regarded as a weakness, as it should have been. Like they're very good at blocking the run, but in pass protection, like Purdy doesn't have everything easy, man. Like he does have to scramble throughout the course of a game and manage pressure and step up in pockets. So
Yeah, and I thought Purdy got a lot of kind of hate maybe for
people were very excited for that to happen because that was when the MVP talk was at its peak. Like people were like, okay, we need this to happen to get people back in the right headspace. And so it led them to over exaggerate just how poorly he played and over exaggerate just how much of a detriment it was to their hopes throughout the rest of the season. So,
but like Brock Purdy, that was a really, really bad game. But outside of that, he literally was one of the best quarterbacks all year. And the MVP race,
Sure.
He was in the thick of the MVP race for good reason. He was a superstar this year, regardless of whether you think he deserves to be. He was in the MVP race and he played like a superstar for most of the season just because of how consistent he was. Like he had two or three really bad games, but outside of that, he was unbelievable. And I will say a lot of that is because of the team that he has around him. And I want to talk about that right now because Christian McCaffrey, I kind of thought after 2020
it
and
was over.
2021, he would never get back to the same player. But he's even better now than he ever has been.
Well, I mean, the key has been really the usage. Like, I remember when the trade rumors started and I was like thinking about the best places he could go. I was like, San Francisco would be great because they believe a little more in a committee. They will never give him more than 20 touches a game like Carolina. Carolina was giving him close to 30 touches a game. And I just knew that in the Kyle Shanahan offense, that would not happen. They would ask him to do different things. They wouldn't just ask him to plow through the middle all the time. They wouldn't just ask him to be in pass protection all the time. So it's been they've done an awesome, really awesome job managing his health too. Like to me, that's been the key is they were able to find a way where he's efficient enough on the touches he gets to the point where they don't need to ask him to, run the ball a lot. And, he is on the field a lot, but he's not actually doing stuff that risks his health all the time. So,
yeah, I mean, offensive player of the year for the first time. He was not the offensive player of the year when he did 1,000 because Michael Thomas broke the single season receptions record. And he still hasn't been seen since.
Yeah, that was, middle of the field. Like any players who are consistently getting tackled in the middle of the
Hold
field.
on, we got to put this one up right here.
I don't see it.
No, not at all. Not one bit. Everyone's just trying to make people.
It's funny. Like everyone's just trying to find the people who look like Brock Purdy, and that I don't see it.
That girl that people say looks like Brock Purdy does not look like Brock Purdy.
No, she does. She does.
I don't see it.
She definitely looks like Brock Purdy.
I don't see it. Like
She
I
definitely
get
looks
it,
like Brock Purdy.
but like, come on, it's childish.
I think she looks like Brock Purdy,
I don't.
but the whole thing is just a little overblown.
when I think about McCaffrey with the Niners, like I just think back to that first game against the Rams. Did he play against in his first game with the Niners? I'm pretty
His
sure.
first game was against the Chiefs. It was that
Was it?
blowout.
Oh yeah, when he like suited up
His
like,
first goal,
like
yeah. That next week was against the Rams, the one where he had like
he
the
like
three
threw a
different-
touchdown, ran a touchdown, like he
Yeah.
did everything. He had like a triple crown in one game, like it was crazy. And McCaffrey is and Purdy, McCaffrey and Purdy are the reasons that I have hope for the Niners in this game, because when they played the Chiefs in 2020, like they didn't have two MVP candidates on their team. Like
Mm-mm.
let's just put it point blank. They didn't have like the image I remember from that Super Bowl was just a video of Garoppolo overthrowing.
Yeah.
I forget
Manuel
who the-
Sanders.
Emmanuel Sanders. Yeah, Purdy has made those throws time and time again, and now they have a playmaker out of the backfield that's not like some random Joe Schmo off the street who can.
Kevin Coleman.
Yeah, Tevin Coleman, or like they had a running back in that game who like was pretty good. I think Mostert, yeah. I'm sorry, my brain is fried. Like I don't remember anything right now. I'm not the Niners expert. I'm just trying to talk off what I remember from games. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean the 49ers also have such a unique skill set in terms of the wide receivers. You look at Brandon Ayuk. Us Ayuk fans are eating good right now.
Oh my gosh, I think he's so good. Ayuk is. I have him like right on. I mean, you can make an argument for him being elite, but like you know the top guy. You know the top guys like Hill, Jefferson, like those guys. I have him like right below all of them. I think he's so
Mario
good.
Douglas.
For sure.
He's like really close to taking like a CeeDee Lamb leap where he goes from like a 1,300 yard guy to like 1,600 yard guy. Like if he was used in that type of way.
And Ayuk is in that category of players on the Niners roster of like Bosa, Warner, like he's in that group for sure. Like he's Brock Purdy's guy. You know, maybe if you want like if you want to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers, you can draw something up for Debo. But like Ayuk is the trusted target there, and he always finds a way. He always finds a way.
Debo's volume numbers.
You want to hear his stats this year?
Go ahead.
105 targets, 1,342 yards, 12.8 yards per target, 7 touchdowns, 71 catch percentage. They had 3 guys. This team had 3 guys. All 3 of their top guys were over 10 yards per target.
Yeah, no, Debo didn't crack 1,000 yards, but I thought he was awesome this year. Like, man, that like.
Oh.
Sorry.
I know what you're about to say.
Really awesome moments. Not even just the Eagles game, but like, I mean, obviously that was the main one. And he also, I'd say, it was his best season in terms of like the stuff he did as a pure receiver. Like, he made some really awesome, truly awesome catches. He had some really impressive routes. So, I mean, I think Debo is still as good as he was back in 2021. The offense has just changed a little bit. And obviously when you have Purdy, you can ask him to do a little less in space all the time.
Yeah. And then, I mean, just about this Niners offense is just so great. But the Niners defense is awesome as well. They were number 3 in offense, number 3 in defense. I think that they are the better like team entering this game without a doubt. If you just look at the metrics,
yes,
they have the better Ken Pom rating, they have the better Torvik, they have the higher net rating, they have more quadrant 1 wins.
Okay, man.
Sorry, I'm just
serious for a minute.
All right, but the defense is excellent. Nick Bosa is Nick Bosa. I mean, he's not quite as good as he was last year, but on a given day, he can be. They have maybe the best linebacker in the sport. It's him, and it's like
they have the best Ravens. I'd still say it's the best linebacker duo.
Yeah, I mean it's Fred Warner and Roquan Smith are the 2 best linebackers in the sport.
And then it's Greenlaw or Queen, and I'd probably take Greenlaw.
Yeah, and I mean they have some excellent cornerbacks. I mean Charvarius Ward, Lenore has been great.
Ward was top 3 corners in the sport this year, I'd say.
I remember
and
Lenore
then
at
you just throw Chase Young into the mix, and you look at a guy that was a number 2 pick because he was one of the most talented players ever to come out of Ohio State. I thought he was a better prospect than basically everyone else.
He was, man,
Special
stuff.
I mean, this defense is assembled like a gang of just total game breakers. There's game breakers on every level of this 49ers defense, and that's what they can do to give anyone trouble. I mean, how good do you guys think this unit is?
You said the what?
How good do you think how good do you guys think this 49ers defensive unit has been over the course of the season?
I'd say it's been good, not great. I think on paper it has been slight. Like, if you look at all the metrics, they're like borderline top 10. The pass rush has actually been closer to average in terms of like pressure rate, and we know that their run defense has faltered at times. I do think it's a bit of an overrated unit, but there's nothing about it that screams we can put we're confident that we're going to put a bunch of points up on you on any given week. They don't allow that many explosive plays, honestly. So they're a good, not great unit in my eyes.
But they have the ability on a given day to just shut anyone down because they have, as I said, game breakers on all 3.
They do. The difference from last year, though, when they were so great, is that they lost D'Amico, and D'Amico was so critical. Wilkes is just
we've seen what he did. He was special.
Wilkes is kind of just like a vanilla, he'll do a fine job. He's not gonna blow your mind with any of his.
He's no Spags.
He's not Spags. He's not ultra creative, but you can obviously play a lot of cover 4 with that defensive line, and that's usually what he does.
I think there's just so much talent on this defense that it should be no surprise to anybody that the 49ers are in the Super Bowl right now. They are maybe the most talented team in the sport, and honestly, the most talented.
They're the most talented team in the sport.
Are they the most talented team we've seen since? Because I feel like there wasn't anyone more talented than this last year.
Eagles were one of the most talented teams in a while, I think.
Yeah, the Eagles were super talented, but like
this year maybe made it more of a testament to the coaching than I might have realized at the time, though.
Yeah, I just think that every position group for this Niners team has a star, it feels like.
I think they're more talented than the Rams in 2021. They're more talented than the Bucs in 2020. They're more talented than the Chiefs in 2019. Chiefs 2019 did not have the best defense, honestly.
No, that defense was mid.
Patriots 2018. Yeah.
Patriots, I'm not even sure they were the most talented team that year.
Eagles 2017 with Wentz. I don't know.
Maybe.
I think, man, this is
some of those Steelers teams.
We're forgetting some teams that didn't make the Super Bowl during these times.
Some of those Steelers teams.
Packers. Some of those Packers teams were up there, I would say.
And honestly, some of the Cowboys teams.
2016 Cowboys.
Yeah.
There's
been so many really talented teams, but the Niners are up there.
They're up there. They're like top
really
5 most talented teams I've seen in the last 10 years.
All right. I would say that. And with that in mind, I mean, there is no reason why the 49ers shouldn't be able to win this game. But Sklar, who do you think is going to win? What's the score going to be? Who's the MVP?
I don't know. I'm like switching my prediction now. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I mean, I already said it about Mahomes.
Okay.
Like he's the Tiger Woods. He's the killer instinct. He's the guy you want in these big moments. Are the 49ers great? Yes. But do the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid on their side? Yes. So with that being said, I'm going to go Chiefs 27-17. And I'm going to throw a little wild card out there. Isaiah Pacheco, game MVP, Jersey. So, yeah, that's my prediction.
Jersey.
There we go.
Sklar, I have one more question for you. Trivia time. Who's singing the national anthem?
Oh, it's like it starts with a B.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, okay. I'm cooked. I don't
Starts with
know.
R.
Ray. Oh, I don't know.
Reba McEntire.
I knew it was like a. I thought I was gonna say Rayla for some reason, but it's Reba. Okay.
Reba McEntire. Shout out Ted Lasso.
Sam, are there any Syracuse players in this game?
There's I don't believe so. I don't believe it.
Tough day.
Well,
A
I'm-
Penn Stater has appeared
There
in
is
every
his name,
Super Bowl.
Deion Bush. Deion Bush.
A
I
Penn
was
Stater-
disappointed. I was so disappointed that the Lions lost because like they have so many Bama players.
JMO.
We have Gibbs, Branch. This game has Cam Latu who's on IR and Isaiah Buggs who's on the practice squad. So
Wait, really? That's it?
yeah, that's it. No,
No
These
way.
teams, they don't like Bama players. They don't.
There's not going to be a Bama player in the Super Bowl.
No, not.
We
kicking the set.
won.
We lost, dude. Football lost. Like
No, football wins. Haters of blue blood football
Nick
programs have
Saban's
won.
insanity run is over.
Nick Saban's insanity run is over, and
Nick
he
Saban's-
knew it. All right,
Nick
thank you,
Saban's-
Sklar.
So, yeah.
All right,
What a way to
Jordan's
end
here
it.
to talk about the keys to the game for the 49ers. We talk about how they got here and just how talented this team is. But a Spags defense, we know how much pressure they're going to throw at Brock Purdy. What looks is Brock Purdy going to see in this game, and how can he beat them, Jordan?
So obviously I think there's going to be a lot of coverage rotations because that's something that Spags is great at. He loves changing looks based off of what you see. I think these corners who are really good at pressing up on these receivers, I think they're going to be physical. And I think they're going to see quite a bit of too high to try and slow down this explosive game. I do wonder am interested to see how they defend the run because I think that's going to be the key if the San Francisco offense wants to work. I don't really trust them if they get into many drop back passing situations, whether it's Brock Purdy or this O-line versus Chris Jones and company.
Yeah, because there's just so much. There's so much that can go wrong, so much that can go right. We know how good these coaching staffs are. We know how talented these teams are. I think that we're set for what could be a really fun one. I think
this is going to be a great game.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a game that is prevalent on coaching and less on, I don't want to say less on the players because the players on them obviously matter, but I think this game is really going to come down to coaching. We have two of the best offensive coaches, I would say, of all time. Andy Reid, possibly the best ever. I maybe lean Mike Shanahan, but that's besides the point. And you have the best defensive coordinator in the league now that Mike McDonald's a coach. So I think it's going to be a really good tactical game.
Yeah, I think that for the X's and O's nerds, for what I have always aspired to be, and what we all aspire to be.
Well, I'm just trying to get better at.
Yeah, we're not there yet. None of us are there yet. We try.
Yeah.
But for the X's and O's nerds of the world, this is going to be one of the best Super Bowls yet, because both teams will have so many counters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you guys think the 49ers can do to counter what the Chiefs want to do?
You want to go first?
Well, I mean, it starts with I know that Mina Kimes put out a stat that's like, so the 49ers lead the league in yards per carry on zone runs, and the Chiefs are second to last in yards per carry allowed on zone runs. And we know that's like the staple of the Shanahan offense. They want to do a bunch of wide zone stuff, outside zone. And so really, like, for the Chiefs, you want to get the Chiefs, you want to get Brock Purdy out of that under center game and force him to work from the shotgun. Like that was the big hump he had to get over in the Packers game. It's like, all right, they're down. They can't leverage the run game as much. What is Brock Purdy going to do in these obvious passing situations where they can't manipulate Green Bay with play fakes? And he got it done for the most part. But that's going to be the keys. The game script. I don't care how many times San Francisco has come back, the game script is going to matter because you are not most likely Harrison Butker's not going to miss a 30-yarder like you know. Actually, there might be some funny Chiefs drops. I was gonna say,
Yeah, I think that's obviously that.
Ball like Josh Reynolds. But at the end of the day, like the game script is going to matter for what the 49ers want to do on offense. So.
Yeah. I agree with you about the game script. And I think if they win, I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be the essential part. And possibly I would put bets on if San Francisco won. I think he would be the MVP because I think they're going to have to run the ball. Obviously, as you mentioned, the zones stat with the Chiefs not being great versus zone, the 49ers loving zone. I think getting him as a weapon out in the screen game, whether they flex him out, screens, flats, option routes, all that. Because if you want to attack this Chiefs defense, I think I know their linebackers are good, but I would rather attack them than those corners.
Yes.
Who are dangerous. And I love Deebo Samuel. I love Brandon Ayuk. I trust the L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie versus them over these linebackers versus Christian McCaffrey and this O-line running horizontally in wide zone.
Yes.
So I think you have to get Christian McCaffrey going, create 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4s, where you don't have to get Brock Purdy in those drop back passing situations where Spaz can send blitzes, he can start rotating coverages, start changing that picture, and muddy up that first read for Brock Purdy, which if we start muddying up that first read, that's when we start to get the questions about how good Brock Purdy really is. And if we want to rely the game on Brock Purdy, if it does come down to Brock Purdy having to win this game, I think he's going to have to do what he did in the Lions game, which is create a lot out of structure and use his legs and not try to throw the game away like he did versus the Packers. So
that's what Kyle Shanahan has been in multiple Super Bowls. He authored the choke job in 2016. He authored the choke job in 2019. But both of those teams were supremely talented. This team is also supremely. Honestly, that 2016 Falcons team is in the conversation of most.
Yes.
Well,
that's what I would say is the best.
That's the best offense I've seen, in my opinion.
Oh, it was so special. But the fact of the matter is, what does he have to do to avoid another meltdown in the fourth quarter? Because, I mean, is he just emptying his bag too early in these types of games?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, the Patriots, the Falcons-Patriots thing is pretty much entirely because they decided to throw the ball in field goal range after the Julio Jones catch. So, I mean, that's what we've been talking about. The run game will be an emphasis, and you've got to keep running the ball as much as the opportunities are there to do so. The other meltdown was more so on, Jimmy G getting put into those situations where they asked him to throw the deep ball to Sanders. Like, it really is about staying ahead of the sticks and, keeping it simple. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there's no reason why he shouldn't be ready to have learned his lessons going into. It's right there for him. Like,
yeah, I think Shanny's learned a lot of lessons over the years. I do agree. I think the 2019 choke is more on Jimmy Garoppolo than because I don't think he trusted Jimmy Garoppolo as much as he trusts Brock Purdy, and obviously MVP Matt Ryan, who he trusted a little too much, I think we can say. And I think he trusts this running game with the best running back in the league, maybe even a little bit more than those other running games, even those ones were really special. So I think it's just you got to be able to control the ball and try not to get into a shootout with Mahomes, because I don't think you can win that.
No. And that's what the Chiefs cannot approach this game like they did the Ravens game. Like it's a different recipe.
This needs to be the Bills game for them, where they're offensively moving the ball down the field efficiently. Like, I think they didn't punt that game, right? Or I think that's the game plan for the Chiefs. Try to play more like that Bills game than the Ravens game, where they were just able to kind of break the Ravens offense. They're not doing that to Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, and on the defensive side of the ball, you cannot stop Patrick Mahomes. You never can. You never will. Nobody will. He's the best quarterback. Yes, maybe to ever. All right, not maybe. He's not. He's up there with the best quarterbacks to ever do it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you slow him down? What types of looks do you throw his way?
Just gotta.
That's really hard.
It's like
Mahomes.
what you would say is blitz and trust that their receivers are not like that against man coverage, but
they're not like that.
Mahomes is like generational against the blitz.
Like, I think maybe play a lot of try to press and get into these receivers' face and try to hope they can't separate. The problem with that is Andy Reid is one of the best play callers at beating man. Like ever, he's great at scheming. So I think you have to. I think if it comes down to that, and they're playing a lot of man beaters, I think you have to try to trust these guys that they can somehow hold up because these receivers aren't good and they can separate a little bit. And obviously Travis Kelce can because he has 3 routes like every play. But
they can't. They're not great at the catch point.
They're not great at the catch point. And if you're you have a true number 1 corner, physical number 1 corner, Charvarius Ward, who can. I think maybe not erase Rashee Rice out of the game, but honestly, possibly erase Rashee Rice out of the game. We'll see. But, yeah, I think you have to play physical. Don't try to get too cute with all these kind of soft zone looks that they ran against Detroit where Jared Goff picked them apart.
He will shred Mahomes. Yeah.
And then I also think if you want to try to play zone, at least try to switch the picture on him. Try to slow down that processor as much as you can because as great as Mahomes is, he's not Tom Brady because no one's Tom Brady, right? So maybe try to slow him down. Obviously, he has all-time great escapability, so it might not even matter, but that's probably your best bet. Try to slow down that processor and try to man these receivers up.
Obviously, a key matchup in this game is the linebackers and Fred Warner.
Yes.
And that company against Travis Kelce, who's
if anyone's gonna do it, it's got to be them. Like if
anyone can cover him, it's Fred Warner.
The Ravens had so many different guys who are just your very best bets to cover Travis Kelce, and it didn't matter.
Yeah. And I mean, the Ravens were able to hold them down the second half, but the first half didn't matter because Travis Kelce went for damn near 100.
And that's the thing is the Chiefs offense has started fast in all 3 of these games.
Yeah.
And that for the 49ers is obviously not favorable for them to be playing from behind.
Well, to be fair, they've had to all 3 games, but the difference is you're not facing Jared Goff and the Lions imploding, and you're not facing Jordan Love in a rainy game.
Mahomes is not gonna.
I know that pain. You talk about Jordan
30
Love.
yards across his body.
Oh yeah,
still in the field with the game on the line on a first down. That's
that Jordan Love game broke my heart a little bit. But
the thing about Mahomes is he's just always just good enough, like to make
he'll
you
get
say
just enough yards. He'll somehow beat Fred Warner to the edge on some 3rd and long. I can already see it in my head.
He'll somehow run past Hassan Reddick on a bum ankle.
My favorite tweet ever. It's like Patrick Mahomes is always 1 mile an hour faster than the nearest defender.
Yep. I'll never forget that freaking 3rd down run on a bum ankle to basically seal that Super Bowl last year. That tore my heart out.
That was wild.
So many of those moments for him throughout the years. I always think about the Titan scramble.
That game was a fever dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I just look at everything. I think I remember why that game was a fever dream because I got sick that night watching the Packers play the Chiefs. Sorry, the 49ers.
Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, the Mostert game
or something like that.
I don't think I watched that game.
I did not watch that game, actually. I don't know what I was doing.
I know I watched the Titans game.
I got sick that day because I spent 3 hours in 50 degrees doing a morning show. I went in the
I can't.
basement of my grandparents' house, and they didn't have the heat on. And I did. Actually, it was an hour and a half. It was a power hour and a half.
Yeah, I can't tell you what I was doing that game. I think I just might have thought San Francisco was going to win anyways and didn't watch.
I was so convinced that Niners team was going to win the Super Bowl.
that Niners team was stacked.
Like the day after the Ravens lost, I had a show, and I was like, the San Francisco 49ers are going to win Super Bowl 54.
Yeah, that Niners team was loaded, man.
I vividly remember the Ravens-Titans game, though. Like, that was something, man.
I live in Maryland, right? So I remember just walking to school the weekend after that game, the weekday after, the Monday after the game. It was just like shock.
No, it was total shock. Just because I remember the Patriots lost too. I was on the phone with a friend that morning when the Patriots lost to the Titans. It was like, oh no, don't worry. We go through this every year. We doubt the team every year. It's not going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
We lost that.
Parker ended
That was the last game that Tom Brady ever played in the Patriots.
Yeah.
I still haven't gotten over the fact that the Patriots dynasty ended because the refs thought N'Keal Harry was out of bounds.
I think it's more because Depoy Gilmore didn't want anything to do with Devontae Parker.
The team was so exhausted, though. They needed a bye week.
They did.
That was the most exhausted I've ever seen a team.
Man.
Now, regardless of that, we do have to get back to the
topic on hand.
We do have to get back to the topic on hand. We have about 10 minutes left to just kind of discuss the 49ers and what their biggest keys now are in terms of play calling on the defensive end. We kind of spoke a little bit about it, but what types of coverages are going to really kind of stunt these receivers?
I think they're probably going to run a lot of quarters, kind of that soft zone that we've ran all season. And I personally think the Chiefs can pick that apart because we have Travis Kelce, who's really aware versus zone, and you have Rashee Rice, who's aware enough. I don't know about the other guys, but when you have Mahomes playing like he is right now, and you have Kelce, and you have at least a competent receiver like Rice, I think they can pick that apart, kind of like they did with the Bills. Yeah. So, like I said, I think they're going to have to get aggressive and change the picture on them. But,
I mean,
whether that's rotating from 3 into 4, rotating from 4 into Robert, anything like that, having Fred Warner be the Tampa 2 runner down the middle, something like that. And I think you have to use Fred Warner in as many creative ways as possible to stop Travis Kelce.
Nico?
I mean, the last time the Chiefs offense was completely shut down was on Christmas against the Raiders. They did play a ton of zone. And knowing Steve Wilkes, he has not been man happy at all this year. He pretty much, like you said, just sits in quarters a lot of the time. And that's the thing with the Niners is I think they're going to be adamant on, at the very least, just slowing this game down early on. And, bend don't break, make the Chiefs work for it, bet on some stupid turnover at some point. Just
try to
make a drive.
Make Mahomes Tom Brady and make these receivers drop. The problem is Mahomes is playing like that now.
Mahomes can do really anything you need him to do. And that's kind of what makes him so difficult to stop, aside from the fact that he has the biggest arm, the best escapability, the best pocket movement. He's also he can just do everything.
Hard count too, underrated.
Oh yeah, he does it a lot better than Mitch Trubisky. I'll tell you that. It's one of my all-time favorite Gruden's QB camp moments. I miss Gruden's QB camp. That was some elite content. Remember when
draft coverage declined a little bit ever since.
Well, because draft coverage is now basically just like people on TikTok saying Chris Olave is overrated.
Draft talk's a cesspool, man, because everybody wants to be either really positive or really negative, and not everyone knows what they're talking about.
Nobody knows. Like 3 people know what they're talking about.
And those 3 people are going to be wrong half the time because that's how the NFL works.
The 32
people turning on Daniel Jeremiah now.
The 32 people that make these decisions are wrong. The starting quarterback in the Super Bowl was the last pick in the draft. Just how
Yeah.
insane is that?
And no matter what you think of Brock Purdy, it's very clear he should have not been the last pick in the draft. Very, very clear.
Very clear.
Sometimes I'll look back at college basketball rosters and say, like, how did this team not win more games? Or how did Brock Purdy not be like at least somewhat successful at Iowa State? I feel like that's an indictment.
They
on
won
that.
a New Year's Six though.
I think they won a New Year's Six. I think they,
Yeah,
did they
they
get
won
to
the
a Big 12
Fiesta Bowl.
championship.
2020.
But like, I feel like
Yeah.
he should have been a lot better than he was.
I mean, you probably shouldn't have. I think he was like
There was
really highly recruited.
Butler,
Um,
Hakeem Butler, and Brees Hall.
yeah.
That was
Hakeem Butler. I think Butler was before Brock Purdy, actually.
Yeah,
Xavier
Butler-
Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Xavier, Donnie's favorite player.
TJ. Who's the Jets' first round pick? McDonald. What is his first
McDonald.
name?
Will McDonald.
Will McDonald.
I
Yeah.
loved him last year. I loved him.
I think it was TJ.
I'm still glad
TJ
that the
Temple, that's
Patriots
what I'm
traded
thinking of.
down to screw the Jets last year.
Yeah.
That was a generational trade by Belichick.
That was his parting gift to us.
Roderick
just-
Jones gone.
Just troll the hell out of him.
Will McDonald's good though.
I like Will McDonald. I think his role is going to increase now that if they don't pay Bryce Huff, which I mean,
They're not going to.
yeah, I'd pay Bryce Huff because he's a great pass rush specialist. But like, they have what 5 edges there.
Yeah,
I would much rather make sure I get some competent O lineman free agents than pay him at this point. If we're being
Yeah.
honest,
Yeah.
I think the plan
I
is
think
hope.
the Jets have generational coaching on the defensive side of the ball. Like I'm convinced that their defense will be top notch no matter what. So
yeah.
promise they have the worst coaching imaginable on the offensive side. Of the ball.
Unfortunately, you're only as good as your offense can take you.
And then you're only as good as your defense will hold you at the
Yeah,
end of the day.
because
because
I'm not
can't
gonna
win.
lie. If I was Sauce Gardner, I'd want to quit playing defense halfway through the year.
I can't believe they didn't quit until like week 16 against the
Yeah.
Browns. That was
I'm so glad that Jets team just blew up in everyone's face. That was like the
you were
happiest.
praying for that.
I was praying for that. I was praying for that.
Hey man, maybe we'll emphasize making sure you have a backup who can play good football. Again,
Or an
Yeah,
offensive coordinator that's not
maybe-
ready.
Maybe people will realize
Yeah.
that having Zach Wilson as your backup quarterback, assuming that eventually he'll be really good, because he's going to learn from Aaron Rodgers, is a bad idea.
like I think I was fine with keeping Zach Wilson as like a third string
Jordan
lottery
Love.
ticket. Maybe hope he develops into something, but like as the primary backup, like no, like try to get Gardner Minshew.
Gardner
I don't know.
Minshew, who was really good this year, I think.
I mean, Gardner Minshew was
Yeah.
he was Gardner Minshew, right? You know what you're gonna get. He was.
I
like,
was
crazy.
a little bit more impressed with him than I thought I would be.
I think he was just exactly what I expected.
Yeah.
I remember that mini Eagles run.
That was special.
Awful,
That was
awful Saints game.
Oh my god.
The Cowboys game, he had his moments, but
The Cowboys game was the Cowboys game made me appreciate Jalen's feel in the pocket so much more. And I don't even think Jalen's like an elite pocket present guy, but oh my gosh, Minshew's feet were just all over the place when pressure came. It was awful.
that was a fun game though.
Oh yeah, they still put up 34 points and ruined my Christmas.
That was a really fun game.
Who would have thought the Gardner Minshew would go toe to toe with Dak Prescott in Jerry World?
Dun, 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 dun.
I miss the 2022 Eagles so much.
All right. We're almost done here with this time slot. So Jordan, we need a couple more things from you. Who's
All right.
going to win the game?
I think the Chiefs are going to win this game.
What's going to be the score?
I think it's going to be probably about like 27-20, 24-17. Kind of a 2-possession game throughout where the Niners kind of cover at the end. But I just don't think they're going to have answers for Spags. I think this defense is going to emphasize stopping the run this week in practice. I think they're going to have some creative looks. And when they get into those drop back passing situations, I'm scared of what Chris Jones is going to do to them. I forgot Charles Omeni who tore his ACL. That kind of sucks for the Chiefs, but yeah.
And
I
then
still think Karlaftis can get some pressure on the other side, dependent on where he lines up. Not against Trent Williams.
and who will be the Super Bowl MVP?
Patrick Mahomes. That's a boring pick. If I want to go
Super Bowl MVP, Harrison Butker.
Oh, how about this? I don't think he's going to win MVP because of his position, but how about L'Jarius Sneed for the job he does on these receivers? I think what him and McDuffie have to do to get these receivers taken out, because if these receivers win, it's not going to matter as much if they get a drop back passing, because we've seen once these receivers get open, they're going to get these plays, their plays, right? So I think the job that L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie have is going to be super, super important. And I think they're up to the task. I love L'Jarius Sneed. I think Trent McDuffie is really good as that number 2. I think they match up with these receivers being able to throw off their timing, with L'Jarius Sneed being such a great press corner, but Trent McDuffie being as quick and physical as he is, as well as a great blitzer. So I think these corners are going to be the key to this Chiefs defense completely shutting down this offense.
All right, Jordan, thank you so much for joining us. We have one more segment before we get to game picks, and it is the reprisal of the prop bet segment. Noah is here with us. How are you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
I'm doing great because I reached out to Seth Walder a few weeks back, and he brought back the greatest set of prop bets ever. It's time, once again, for Super Bowl Next Gen Stats prop bets. Let's do this. All right, everyone, make sure you've got this open on your computers or whatever you're using to do this, so we can go through this together.
All right.
Give me just a
Among
second.
these running backs, who will record the most rush yards over expectation? Christian McCaffrey is worth 5 points. Isaiah Pacheco is worth 12. Clyde Edwards-Helaire 40. Elijah Mitchell 55. And Kyle Juszczyk 125.
CEH.
Really?
This
Okay. The thing with this one, I think, is McCaffrey's going to have the volume, and this is not a per. Correct. This is not a per rush. It's a.
Oh, it's not
total.
a per rush. Okay. Yeah, I'm not taking CH.
I don't think there's any way you can go other than CMC. Like, I can see a Pacheco if you want to.
Yeah, I'll
If-
just
if
take
you-
CMC.
I'm taking
Yeah.
Pacheco simply because value. I just think that everyone's going to take CMC, and I can make up 7 points somewhere else.
All right.
And I think there's a good chance it happens. Ooh, on what percentage of dropbacks will the Chiefs play press coverage with both outside cornerbacks per NFL Next Gen Stats? Over or under 38%.
I'm going to take the under.
Yeah,
think
I'm gonna go with the under. I think they're just
30
gonna
would be
do
a
a
little
lot
bit
more
more
like
of a
cuter.
version.
I think they're gonna do a lot more cuter things than just playing straight up man to man press coverage. I just think that's too obvious, too easy to read, and I think they're gonna want to make Brock Purdy think.
I am going to go against you guys here, and I'm going to go with over. I think the Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed pairing especially L'Jarius Sneed, are incredible in press coverage. And I think that the way the Chiefs are going to try and attack and limit kind of George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk is by taking out one or two of them each play on the line of scrimmage instead of allowing the 49ers time to let their plays develop, which is what Shanahan excels at.
Okay, I like that. I think that's a fair take. I mean, I obviously am not.
Spags loves to blitz, and obviously, if you blitz, you can't play as much press coverage. But I think Purdy, with some of what he's actually good at, is kind of containing himself, I guess, not faltering under pressure. And I think that one way to eliminate that aspect of his game is to just take the receiver out of the play.
All right, The next question: who will have a higher completion percentage over expectation?
Mahomes.
I'm gonna go.
You can get
Purdy.
more.
I'm going
Purdy.
with Purdy here.
I'm going with Purdy. Just
Yeah.
the throws that Purdy has to make from like a distance perspective versus Mahomes and the way their offenses have been running, even if Purdy's receivers are wide open, that's not how the stat gets calculated. It's a purely like yard downage distance type thing.
Yeah, and I just think that it's going to make it so much easier in terms of to make this just a Purdy stat. I mean, there's a reason that Purdy's worth 8 points and Mahomes is worth 13. It's a stat that the 49ers cheat code all year.
Yeah, and that's why they have such high.
They've been doing it with Jimmy G. They've been doing it with everybody. Who will record the fastest top speed as a ball carrier? I know I'm going with Debo here. I'm going with Debo. I think he's just so incredibly fast when he gets the ball in his hands. They're going to scheme him a bunch of touches just like they did in that other Super Bowl because he's so effective when he gets that ball in his hands, and I think they're going to want to get the ball in his hands as much as possible.
I'm going to go.
You got to break one loose for one of these.
You either got to break it loose or you got to be open in space. I'm going to go with MVS.
I like that one.
I just think this is a crapshoot. And yes, Rashi, Debo, McCaffrey, Ayuk, Pacheco are probably the most likely. But if you were to ask me which player is going to be wide open in space with 30 yards to run, I think it's MVS or Justin Watson or Ayuk maybe too. But I think Ray McLeod at 100 is underrated here. I'm surprised that Purdy isn't on here. But
you can take the field for 70, by the way.
Yeah, which is less than anyone except for Rashi and Debo, which I think that Ray McLeod just on punt returns could have a chance to be. You know what? I'm going to take Ray McLeod over MVS.
He is returning the punts.
And the fact that he's at 100 on here means that Seth Walder, who's obviously done more research into these than anyone else in the planet right now, has determined that for some reason Ray McLeod should be valued not that far off Ayuk and Pacheco.
I'll take MVS.
Yeah, I'm going with Debo. Which player will record the fastest top speed overall? This is a crapshoot. I have no idea.
I'll take the field. I'll take the field.
The fact that Joshua Williams is such a heavy favorite makes me believe it probably has to be him.
I'm going to go with the field.
That's a heavy favorite.
I think it could be Fred Warner for all we know. I don't know. Good.
Yeah. I think it's just going to be somebody. I don't know who. But I love these questions every single year. Oh, baby.
Shanahan.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely going with the 49ers here.
Reed would never.
Yeah,
no, Reed has been making them lately.
I'm going with the 49ers here. It just feels right.
In the big games,
does it is it including like if you make it or fail? Like if you take a bad one but you make it, does that count as making a good one?
I think so.
Oh, because it just says error. Because my thoughts are like, what if like the Chiefs go for like a 4th and 8, like and they make it because Patrick Mahomes? Does that count as a bad decision? If
I don't think so.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Go with that if you want.
I'm gonna go with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Andy Reid is gonna not go for it late in the game.
Okay.
Nice pass rush win rate. Bosa.
Bosa seems too obvious.
No,
here.
Chris Jones actually. That San Francisco interior is not great.
Bosa seems
think
too
Bosa
obvious.
will get chipped a lot.
Bosa seems too obvious. I'm gonna go with Chase Young here.
Chase
I
Young.
kind of like the field. for this
Minimum
one.
10 plays, by the way.
Oh, is it minimum? Oh, I didn't read that.
I'm taking Chris Jones.
Yeah, I still like the field. I think there's going to be. I think Karlaftis is underrated here.
Yeah, no, I'm actually now considering going with Karlaftis. I love Karlaftis.
I would absolutely take Karlaftis over Chase Young. Chase Young has not been good.
No, Chase Young's a bad pick.
Yeah, no.
One angle to look at is with Tooney out and Jawan Taylor being really bad. I think that the Chiefs may. Who plays on the same side? I'm forgetting right now. Is it Hargrave or Kinlaw that plays on the same side as Bosa? Not Hargrave's on the Chiefs. Is it Kinlaw or does Kinlaw play on the same side as Bosa?
I don't know.
I do not know.
Because I think Bosa's going to have no, but that doesn't really help with pass rush. So that just helps with like getting a sack. I like the field here. I like the field or Chris Jones or
I'm going with Karlaftis. I'm absolutely going with Karlaftis here. I like that idea.
Fair enough.
All right, couple more props to go. Which player will allow the most yards in coverage as the nearest defender?
Ambry Thomas.
Yeah, I was going to go with that. I'm with you there.
Value.
Ambry Thomas at 65.
I kind of like Charvarius Ward. I think.
I don't know, man. I just don't think that the Chiefs like wide receiver ones are going to be good enough to like beat Ward like that.
Actually, no, Fred Warner, because even though it might not always be his fault, I do think that Kelsey's going to get a lot of yards, and they probably will be around him. Like they'll probably spot
it's
drop.
true. This is literally just like a who's
this isn't
closest
actually
to a
like
player.
who will have the worst game.
For me, this is basically who's going to give up the big play. And I feel like Ambry Thomas is most likely to do that.
I mean, probably.
I just don't think the Chiefs are really going to gun it like that, though. I don't think either team really is.
But like it could be like a 25-yard pass that gets like 40.
I think Justin Reed is a good shout here, in just that he may be on Kittle a lot, and he's in not just that Kittle may eat. I just think that Justin Reed's going to be in the middle of the field.
That's true.
Where the 49ers get the majority of their big plays from, just scheming up someone wide open, like in the middle downfield. And for 100 points, I think that's a good value.
Yeah, it's great value.
Changing my pick, I got Reed.
I'm still going with Ambry Thomas, though.
Fair enough.
Will Travis Kelce record a top speed of 19.8? I mean, at this point, if you go,
value, you might as well say yes.
For the value, 1.9 versus 89.
Yeah.
Getting this, if you get no here, that's not going to do anything. It's not going to move a needle. So I have to go with yes. It's too good value.
I just think it is great. It is excellent value, but the fact that it's like this, and also the 1989 line is taken from Taylor Swift. That's some Taylor Swift. I think it's an album.
Yeah, it's an album.
Yeah. So I just think I think that's like lock of the century now.
It probably is, but you don't gain anything by that being no. I don't.
You gain a tiebreaker.
Sure, but if he does hit it,
I'll say no. It's not going to happen. I'll say no. Just
let me check something. What is his top speed this year?
Because it's not going to happen.
Sam,
what?
A porn bot just liked my Ruggs over Waddle in reply to one of your tweets from 2021.
No way. Fastest ball carrier speeds.
I guarantee you it's not over like 17.
Let me just take a look at like.
He's an old man.
Okay, yeah, the fastest ball carrier speed for anyone last week was Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah, no, it's no.
Yeah,
Because
like
only
19
two guys were over 1989 last week.
No, the top all year is like for like everyone is like 22, like every year, and that's like the Tyreek Hills of the world, and like Travis Kelce's not hitting 1989.
No, yeah,
Not
no, I was thinking the value's too good, but not possible. No. Brock Purdy's QBR going under.
67. People are gonna go over because they think 67 is really high.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 67 is really good.
How? Ooh. Under.
I'm
I've
definitely
seen
going
enough
under.
of Steve Wilkes.
I'm definitely going under as well.
Doesn't have the guts. Most
Who
dig
run the
routes.
most dig routes.
Ayuk.
I want to go with Kittle.
Ayuk. That's what he does, man.
I kind of want to go with Kittle here, though.
I think this is where Justin Reed could give up a lot of his yards.
Rashi Rice is a chip here. I think I would go with Kittle. But Rashi runs exclusively curls, digs, and goes pretty much. If you
Which
look
player
at
which player will record the higher pass block win rate? Creed Humphrey or Jake Brendel?
Oh God. Give me Humphrey, man. I don't trust anyone besides Trent Williams.
Me too.
49ers.
Going with Creed. Fastest average pass rush get off time. I mean, it's Nick Bosa.
Yeah, it's supposed to.
It's Nick Bosa. I have to do it.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter even if he's doubled. It's just how quickly.
Yeah, over
Ooh,
expectation.
This one's fun.
I'm either going with McCaffrey or Debo.
Debo. Actually, Rashee Rice, sleeper. Rashee Rice.
Yeah, that because it's expectation. Rashi is someone who can I think Kittle's a good shout here. I think Kittle and Rashi are the two I'd go here.
Rashee.
I'm going with CMC.
All right.
Because CMC, if he can break one from the backfield, but
I'm just gonna.
I like Rashee a lot.
All right. So not Jawan Jennings. Let me go over this because this is all we're doing for prop bets this year. Pacheco, most rush yards over expectation, under 38%. Brock Purdy, higher completion percentage over expected. Debo, fastest top speed. The field for fastest top speed overall. Niners make a larger error. Karlaftis with the highest pass rush win rate. Ambry Thomas, most yards in coverage. Travis Kelce doesn't hit that speed. Purdy goes under 67 QBR. 49ers go under 35 man coverage. Kittle runs the most digs. Humphrey has the higher pass block win rate. Bosa has the fastest get off time. And CMC has the most yards over expectation.
There you go.
All right. Thank you so much, Noah, for joining us tonight. It's time for the game picks. So actually, Noah, you have to give us your game pick before we let you go.
the Kansas City Chiefs are going to beat the San Francisco 49ers by a score of 21-17.
All right. Thank you, Noah. We will see you next year for the prop bet segment for the fifth straight year.
Sounds good. Thank you.
This is your domain. That's Mr. Noah. Mr. 315 as well. Mr. Cornell in the house. Moving on. It's time for game picks. Nico, who's going to win the game and why?
I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this game because they have the better quarterback, they have the more trustworthy coaching staff, and they have the more trustworthy secondary. And they will not allow a devastating big play. And the 49ers will at some point. And I also think that they will play cleaner football. and that they will avoid turnovers better. And I think the score, do I say my score yet?
Yes, say your score.
I think now for the Chiefs to win this game, though, it's going to have to be a little more high scoring. I do think that there will be plenty of like volatile moments. So I'm going to take the Chiefs 27-23 final score. Kyle Shanahan settles for some weak field goals.
I do this basically every single year. This is year 5 of the Super Bowl special. Year 1, I picked the Niners. Year 2, I picked the Chiefs. Year 3, I picked the Bengals. I still don't know why. I had a vision come to me the night before. I was picking the Rams for the entire 2 weeks. I was picking the Bucs for the entire 2 weeks. I was never considering the Chiefs in 54. Last year, I picked the Eagles. I'm not making that mistake again. I'm betting on 15. The Kansas City Chiefs.
Keep going. I've never been right to doubt Patrick Mahomes. Never.
I was right one time.
I've never been right.
2018 AFC Championship game.
Fair enough.
But doubting Mahomes is not a road that I'm going to go down this year. The Kansas City Chiefs will win the Super Bowl. The score will be 31-20. I think.
Same as last time?
I didn't even realize that.
Same exact score as last time.
I did not even realize that, but the final score will be 31-20.
The
Super
question
Bowl
is,
MVP.
who is Brock Purdy going to overthrow in this scenario?
Nah. Brock Purdy's going to play well. But he's going to get sacked at a crucial time by George Karlaftis. And it's going to turn like a 3rd and 6 into like a 4th and 11. And they're not going to be able to convert it. And then the Chiefs are going to go down the field and ice the game with a touchdown or a field goal or whatever it is. That's how I think this game goes. I think Kansas City 31, San Francisco 20. After 4 years of missed Super Bowl predictions. 4 years, Nico. I haven't gotten a single one right since the Patriots won. This is my year.
We're going to do it. We're going to do
it. The hashtag Chiefs will
the
be
Chiefs.
Super Bowl champions.
Hashtag Chiefs, baby.
For the 3rd time in the Patrick Mahomes era, the hashtag Chiefs will be Super Bowl champions tonight. Patrick Mahomes will be holding up Lombardi once again, and we will have repeat Super Bowl champions for the first time since the New England Patriots in 2003 and 2004.
Sounds about right.
All right, Nico. Thank you to everyone for joining us. If you came to, no, this is not Brackets, Bubbles, and Bit Stealers. We're not outroing you like that. But thank you so much for joining us on the 5th annual Power Sports Sam Federman Super Bowl special with Nico. We'll be back next year. We're going to do this every year because this is the best.
Yes, we will.
And hopefully I get one right today, Nico. You want to take us home? You want to take us home? All right, do it.
We will see you after the Chiefs Super Bowl parade.
All right. Thank you.